Chapter 9, 61. Yuan Ma. When I received the annulment, you were no longer my fiancé. You just didn't want to admit it. What right do you have to be my fiancé? You people from Tianyu's royal family humiliated me and treated my Luo family like pigs and dogs. Have you ever thought about
Chapter
me
980.
and the Luo family?
As she said this,
after being engaged,
she
for
immediately
so many
hung
years,
something around
How many times have
Yi
you been to our
Qianqian's
Luo
neck.
family?
Here, this
How
is
many
for
times
you.
have you seen me?
She said with a
and my
smile.
grandfather.
Yi Qianqian
Yuan
only
Ma.
felt a chill.
Those who
on his
humiliate
neck,
others will be
and a
humiliated
jade
by
pendant
others.
appeared in front of his
You
chest.
abandoned my Luo
He lowered
family
his head
like
to
a
take a
pair
look,
of worn-out
and then the
shoes.
light in his
my
eyes
eyes instantly
how much better are
became
you than trash?
incomparably deep.
Luo
Isn't that
Qingtong's expression
betrothal
was
token?
cold.
He
The
looked
words
at the
she
young
said
girl
were
in front
all
of him
what that
and asked
Luo
word by word.
Qingtong
Yes.
wanted to say to you.
Luo Qingtong smiled
before
and
the
nodded.
Luo Qingtong
Lord, do you like it?
disappeared.
I like it.
Her
The
greatest
man's
wish
voice
was
not
low
only
and
to
hoarse.
protect the
Yi
Luo
Qianqian
family,
looked
but also to make
deeply at the
you
little
Yuan
girl
Ma
in front of
regret
him.
his actions.
He suddenly lowered his
She
head
wanted
and
Yuan Ma
kissed
to
her.
know
How
that
could she
she
not
didn't
like
care
it?
about him
That was her
anymore.
betrothal
In
token.
her eyes,
She
he
gave it
wasn't
to
even
him.
a piece of
Did
trash.
it mean that she had already
Today, Luo
opened her heart
Qingtong
to
helped her
accept
say
him?
it. For the first
Chua.
time, Luo
Yi Qianqian
Qingtong
felt a clear
jumped onto the
response
stage.
from Luo Qingtong.
Yuan Ma, come up. At this
Let's
moment,
settle this once
some kind of
and for
emotion
all today.
overflowed from the
I'll
bottom
let
of his
everyone know
heart.
that you
And it was about to
Yuan Ma
explode.
aren't good enough for me.
The young girl's
Luo
bell-like
Qingtong.
laughter echoed
Luo
in the mountain
Qingtong's
street.
voice sounded.
Luo Qingtong
The girl's
raised her
aura
head
exploded
and hooked
one
her
by one.
arms around
In the blink of
Yi
an eye,
Qianqian's
the
neck
black robes
and welcomed
around
the
her
man's
body
enthusiasm.
fluttered in the wind.
At this moment,
That was
the
the robe
mountains,
that
fields,
Yiqianming
lakes, and
wrapped around her
spring were
body.
incomparably
Luo
brilliant.
Qingtong
The
wore
news
on
of
stage.
Luo Qingtong,
The black robe
defeating
defeating
Luo
Yuan Ma
Qingtong's
quickly
skin
spread
looked like snow
throughout the empire
white
of
and
Qing's
tender
Holy
like cream.
Academy.
Her black
Those who didn't go to
silky
watch
hair
the gambling
hung
match
on
were
Luo
instantly
Qingtong's
shocked
shoulder
when they heard this
and was
news.
tied up by a purple
Oh my God.
hairband.
Luo
It was really
Qingtong
charming
actually
and elegant.
defeated Yuan Ma.
At this moment,
when everyone heard
Luo
this,
Qingtong
they
was
thought
like
it
a
was
goddess of
fantasy.
war.
However,
Cold
the news that came later
unparalleled,
confirmed that what they heard
domineering
was true
and enchanting.
Luo Qingtong
Yuan Ma
really
come and
defeated
fight.
Yuan Ma.
Luo
Furthermore,
Qingtong raised her
she
right
defeated
hand
him
and
with his
unsheathed
unique
the
soul
Thunderwind
skill.
sword. When this news
Pointing
came
at
out,
Yuan Ma.
everyone was instantly
Today's battle
speechless.
wasn't just to cancel
using the
the
opponent's
engagement
unique
and
soul
take back
skill
the
to
Luo
defeat
family's
him.
token.
Wasn't Luo
It was to wash
Qingtong's
away the
talent
humiliation
and
of
innate
the
talent
Luo
too amazing.
family.
However,
For the Tianyu royal
there were also
families
people who were
ungrateful
suspicious
and
How could
ungrateful
Luo Qingtong be
even more
so
coincidental
for the pride
as to
of
have
the
the
original
same type
owner
of soul
who had
seal
been let down
as Yuan Ma?
Yuan Ma.
However,
I will represent
this
her
suspicion was
and quickly
quickly you onto
suppressed
my
by the
feet.
news that Yi
Tell
Qianxian
everyone
had
that
the
you're not
supreme
good enough for
sacred
her.
token.
The
The
new
new
chief instructor
following Luo
actually had the
Qingtong's
supreme
voice sounded
sacred
below.
token.
Yuan
This
Ma
news was even more
completely
shocking
enraged.
and
His
shocking
gaze was
than the
cold
news
and
of
gloomy
Luo
as he looked at the
Qingtong
young girl who was
defeating
pointing
Yuan
her
Ma.
sword at him.
For a moment,
The aura around
everyone
him
was
also
guessing
exploded.
Yi Qianqian's
Luo
background
Qingtong
and identity.
You forced me to do this.
How could he actually have
He wanted to give
such an
Luo
amazing item
Qingtong
like
but
the
time and
supreme
time and time
sacred
again?
token?
Two's a
After
woman's
all,
since
it was
then.
something that could
Don't
only
blame
be
to blame
issued
him
by
to if he couldn't
transcendence.
have it. Then
Only
no
those
one
who had
else
the power
could
to
either.
look down on the
Luo,
celestial dynasty
Yuan Ma
could
could
possess
possess it.
also leaped
Every
onto the
expert
arena
who
in
had
an
the
instant.
supreme saint
The two of them
token
looked
was
at
on
each other
equal
from afar.
footing.
A
with the
bone-chilling
transcendent
aura
aura
seeped
whether
into
the
the
token belonged
belonged
to the
chief
chief
instructor.
instructor.
In just an
This
instant,
man's
it
reaction
meant that there was an
entire arena
extremely
was
terrifying
shrouded.
person's
Besides,
aura.
he was so much stronger
as the
against the
aura
sacred
spread
out
out
from
from
his
him
body.
every time.
The railings
Wasn't
around
she
the
allowed to
entire
just as
building
everyone
were
was
emitted
discussing
a
exciting
screeching
However,
sound.
Luo
Yuan Ma's
Qingtong's
aura
figure
was so
appeared
cold
outside
that
the
it
black
froze the
field
railings
main
around
city
stage.
of the Empire
Soul
of Qin's
imprint
sacred
spirit
dynasty.
body.
She
It's
received
a
the news that
soul
Yin
seal
Yang
spirit
and
body.
the others had
The
something
aura
to
of the
report.
soul
It
imprint
just so
in
happened
Yuan
that
Ma's
Luo
body
Qingtong had been
is so
thinking about
strong.
helping Machin.
He's not an ordinary
solve the
soul
luck seizing
imprint spirit
technique
body
in his
right?
body these days. She still lacked a few
Chapter
medicinal
962.
herbs.
So
Cries
she
of surprise
immediately
came from the
over.
crowd. Helping
Yuan
Machin
Ma's soul power
solve the
aura
luck
was
seizing
so
technique
strong
in his
that it was
body
not something a
was
beginner
firstly
martial
to
emperor
repay
could
his
compare
kindness
with.
of
As
giving
a
him
heaven grade
medicinal
student who
herbs,
entered the
and
Empire
secondly,
of Qin
to deal
Saint
with
Academy
King
from
Wu.
the Empire Branch
The latter
Academy.
was too arrogant.
He was accepted
Thinking
as
of
a
the
closed-door
ruthless
student
words
by the
Mo
Soul Academy's
Chun
great
Xian
teacher.
said before leaving,
Su Jinwei had
and what he said to
contributed a
Yuan Ma
lot to
before,
this,
but
about
Yuan
making
Ma's
her a
talent
slave,
and strength
Luo
were also
Qingtong
indispensable.
narrowed her
Otherwise,
eyes.
no
matter how much Su Jinwell liked him and said good things about him. Chapter
Su
981. The latter would
What's more,
more, the other party was backed by that heavenly
accept
doctor,
a person with
thinking of how the
mediocre
latter
talent
had
and strength.
previously
Yu
interfered in the
Wenma's
affairs of the
aura
great Chu
was
Empire.
so strong
If she
that it
hadn't
was
chased her
comparable
grandfather
to
to
the
beginner
great
martial
Chu
sacred
emperors.
dynasty, the cold
Empress Dowager
aura
Yin,
emitted
she
from
would
his
have been
body
successfully
was enough
plotted
to
against by the
freeze
other
a
party
martial
in
emperor's
Ningguang.
aura.
Now,
And make it difficult
he had
for them
interfered
to
in the struggle
circulate
for
their
the
energy.
throne of the
They were no
Empire of
match
Qing.
for him,
And supporting
only a
King
beginner
Wu
martial
to fight
emperor
for the throne
could resist
behind the
the
scenes.
cold aura.
Was this a
in his
coincidence?
body?
Or
But don't
was it
forget that Yu
intentional?
Wenma had
Luo
soul
Qintong
skills.
thought
His
like
innate
this,
soul
and
body
her figure
could
had already
maximize
rushed
the cold
towards the
energy
main
in
city
his
of the
body
black field
in terms
of
of
the Empire
combat
of Qing.
strength. Not
Yuan
long
Ma's
after she
strength
left,
was comparable to a
petite figure
mid-level
suddenly
martial
appeared
empress.
at the place
As
where
for
she was
Luo
standing.
Qingtong,
She had just
following her was
broken
indeed
through
the right
to the
choice.
martial emperor's
Looks
level.
like she's going to the main
She might not
city
even
of
be
the Black
stable
Field
as a
this
beginner
time.
martial
I wonder
emperor.
if she's going to
How
see
could
the
she
evil
compare with
Dr.
your
Ghost
Yuan Ma?
Eye.
Everyone looked at the
Yuxingqi's
cold
petite
aura
figure appeared at the
emitted
place
from
where
Yuan Ma's
Luo
body
Qingtong
and was almost
standing
certain
before.
that Luo
She
Qingtong
tilted her little
would
head
lose.
and looked at the
What a
direction
pity
where the girl
Someone
left.
shook his head and
She
said,
smiled and
Luo
lowered her
Qingtong's
head
talent
and said to the little
definitely
white
above
cat in
Yuan
her
Ma's.
arms.
She
Dude, this
reached
time
the
it's up to
martial
you.
emperor's
We have to
level
follow
in a
her
month.
closely.
If
Don't
Luo
lose her.
Qingtong was
Otherwise,
given enough time,
it's fine if
Yuan
brother
Ma
can't
would
find his
definitely
future
not
bride,
be her match.
but I won't have any
But
fun.
now, she's
So,
definitely going
cheer
to
for me a
lose.
bit,
Okay?
yeah. The people
Otherwise,
around him
I'll
echo.
deduct your dried
No one
fish.
thought that Luo
Meow.
Qingtong,
Hearing
Yuan
Yuxingqi's
Ma's
words,
the latter's
little white
strength
cat in her
completely
arms
suppressed
suddenly called
Luo
out
Qingtong.
lazily.
Not to
Suddenly,
mention other things.
It seemed to have sensed
Luo
something,
Qingtong
and the
might
hair
not be
all
able to
over his
resist
body
the
stood up at
cold
once.
aura of the
Meow.
soul seal.
Its voice was
Defeat
sharp,
only a
and
matter
its
of time.
eyes stared straight
Su
in a
Xiao
certain
Xiao
direction,
and the others
not
listened
far
to the
away.
discussion around them.
and
Seeing
felt
the little
nervous.
white cat like
The
this,
strength that Yuan Ma
Yuxingqi's
displayed was indeed
smiling expression
extraordinary.
immediately
Even if they had great
disappeared.
confidence in
Her
Luo
sweet
Qingtong,
smiling face,
they didn't dare to
suddenly
say that
froze.
she would
And
definitely
looking at
win
the place where the
against
little
Yuan Ma.
white cat was
After
screaming,
all,
the martial
she
emperor
coldly
from the
called
royal
out,
family of Tianyu,
"Oof,
whom Luo
this beast's
Qingtong
senses are
had
quite
killed,
sharp,
could not be
in the
compared
direction
to the latter's
Yuxingqi
strength.
was looking at.
Boss,
A few
Su
figures
Xiao
suddenly
Xiao
appeared.
and the others were
They
worried.
actually sensed our
in the
existence.
ring.
So
Luo Qingtong
quickly.
looked at the aura,
But it's already too
emitted
late.
from Yuan
A
Ma's
few
body
voices said
and
with
narrowed
bad
her
intentions.
eyes. She
And
remembered the
immediately
reason why
surrounded
Yuan Ma
Yuxingqi
and the original
and the
little
Luo
white cat
Luo
in a fan
Qingtong.
shape. UNMO
You
was
are the
born with a
remnants of
cold
the silver
illness.
sword?
From the looks of it now,
Yuxingqi's
his
gaze
innate
swept
cold
over the
illness had
auras of
become
these
a part
people
of his innate
and discovered their
talent,
identities,
allowing
That's
him
right.
to become
Yu
a soul
Xingqi
imprint spirit
just
body.
obediently let yourself be
UNMO
captured.
had received
Your
such
brother
a great
annihilated
favor from the
our
original
silver
owner's
sword.
mother. Yet he
And we will
actually
never
viewed the
forgive him.
original owner
And the woman who
and
helped
the
your
Luo
brother kill our
family
silver
as
sword
burdens, and
we won't let her
despised
go
them
either.
in every way
Take him
possible.
away.
That group of
Luo
people
did
waved
deserve
their
it.
hands
Luo
and
Qingtong's
instantly
eyes
swarmed
were
over.
cold.
She raised her wind
Yuxingqi.
and thunder sword
At the same
and
time,
rushed towards
Luo
Yuan Ma.
Qingtong had
Rumble
just approached
the two
the main
figures
city of the
instantly
Black
clashed
Field
together
when a message
Luo
flew into her
Qingtong's
hand.
long sword.
If
was
you want
like
to
a
save
dragon.
Yuxingqi,
As she waved her
come
sword,
here.
there was
The
a
sound
map
of wind
attached to the
and
letter.
thunder came
and it was
out.
not far
Together
from the
with the
Black
wind
Field's main
and
thunder
city.
on the long sword. They slashed
Luo
towards
Qingtong
Yuan
looked at the
Ma
letter
and narrowed her eyes.
Chapter
Imperial
963.
Why does this
Bang.
name sound
Luo
familiar?
Qingtong's
As
thunder
Luo
sword
Qingtong
sound
thought
tangled
about it,
with Yuan
she
Ma's
suddenly
cold
thought of the
aura.
little girl
In
who
an
had helped
instant,
her
the
to
surrounding
Su
energy
Jinwei.
shot out.
Then the other
The
party
students of the
say
State
her
Academy,
name
who were too
was
close
close
to
to
the
the
arena,
retreated
So,
one.
she was the
after
Imperial
another.
Star.
They were
She
afraid that if
mentioned
they were
the letter.
touched by the
But what does her
cold
being
aura
captured
of
have
her
to do
sword
with me?
moves,
Luo
they would suffer
Qingtong
an
raised her
unexpected
eyebrows.
disaster. At this moment,
Boom.
the
On
little
the
pig in her
arena,
arms looked
waves
at the
of
contents
energy
of the letter
waves
and
rose
suddenly
and
said,
filled the entire
Imperial
arena.
Star Qi. The sound of
Is it
wind
related to
and
that
thunder
Yuxi
and the cold
Hearing
aura
this,
were
Luo
endless.
Qingtong
completely
also seemed to
covering
have
the two of
reacted.
them.
She
Somewhere in
recalled
the
the
arena,
sage stage
Yi
elder
Qianxian
she had
and the
killed
Grand
when
Supreme
she was
Dean
refining
stood
the
on the
youthful
rejuvenation
rejuvenation
pill and watched the battle below. Aren't you afraid that the evil doctor will lose? Chapter
Since there are
982.
no
outsiders here,
Luo
the Grand
Qingtong
Supreme
thought
Dean
like
didn't
this,
hide
and
Luo
immediately
Qingtong's
understood.
identity anymore.
No wonder this letter
He immediately
was
looked
sent
at
to
Yi
her.
Qianxian.
The other
and
party
asked.
probably didn't
The
know her
latter
true
was still
identity
dressed
and
only
only
saw her
Luo.
face from the
Hearing
image of that
this,
sage
Yi
realm
Luo
elder
glanced at him
before he
and
died.
said coldly,
They thought that her
"She won't
relationship
lose.
with you,
You're
Si Huang,
confident.
wasn't shallow.
The Grand Supreme
So this
Dean
letter
muttered,
was sent to
if
her.
she loses,
If that was the
you'll
case,
be in trouble.
then it could
Yuan
explain
Ma's
why
strength
this letter was
is
sent
not
to her.
weak.
He was
Luo
born with his
Qingtong's
soul
hands
seal
and
not the
spiritual
evil
body,
Dr. Ghost
and
Eye's
his soul
hands.
seal
But if
is
the other party
very
knew
special.
that she was the
The
evil
cold
Dr. Ghost
aura
Eye,
emitted
then
from
they
his
wouldn't
body
have the guts
can
to
even
come and
freeze
seek
the
revenge.
strength
And
Luo
aura
Qingtong
in a person's
thought
body.
like this.
The evil
and
doctor has
immediately
just
kept the
broken
letter,
through to the
turning
martial
around.
emperor realm.
She rushed towards
Even
the
if her
location
strength
marked
is
on the
far
letter.
stronger
She
than
was never a
ordinary
person who
people
liked
who
to
have
raise a
just
tiger
entered the martial
and invite
emperor realm.
calamity.
She
Since
will
the other party had
inevitably
come to
be
seek
affected.
revenge, the
Then
Grand Supreme
naturally
deemed
she
had
was
to
really
get rid of them
worried.
all, although he knew
So as
that
to
Luo
avoid
Qingtong
any more
was
unexpected
very powerful.
complications.
The main thing
Luo
was that
Qingtong
Yuan
never
Ma was
looked down
not
on
weak
anyone.
either, no matter
More
if the other
importantly,
party was
if Luo
powerful
Qingtong
or
really
not.
lost,
Because she
would the
herself
person next
had
to him
risen from
turn the
insane
significance
academy of the
and
Empire
adversity.
of Qin
In
upside
her previous
down.
life,
He was also
other
mentally
people's
tired.
contempt towards her
The other party
gave her the
could have
opportunity
solved the problem
to escape
with just one
and
rise.
rise.
But he just had to
Achieving
make
the
it so
prestige of the
troublesome.
supreme
He really
technique
spoiled the
master.
evil doctor too
Then
much.
these silver
What would he do if
swords
Luo
remaining
Qingtong
members,
lost later?
who knew if they would
While the Grand
implicate
Supreme
even
Dean
more
was
trouble.
muttering in his heart,
Compared to using
Su
soldiers
Jinyue
to
looked
block
at the
water
scene
with an
below
earth
the
weir,
arena, with
Luo
indescribable
Qingtong preferred
hatred
to
in her
take
heart.
precautions.
Luo Qingtong
Nip all
was
the threats
definitely
in the
no
bud,
match,
not
for
giving
senior
the
brother.
other party the
That woman
slightest
dared
chance
to call
grow.
her a green tea
Schwan,
bitch.
following
After
Luo
senior
Qingtong's
brother
lead,
crippled her cultivation,
she rushed towards the
broke off the
location
engagement
marked
with
on the
her,
letter,
and
in a
gave her to
simple wooden
emote
house
Shan
1,000
as a
meters away
slave.
from the Black
She would
Field's
like to
main
see how
city.
she could still
a
be
group
so
of silver
arrogant.
sword people were
Green
looking
tea
at
bitch,
Xingqi,
clinging
who
onto
was
someone
tied up
else's
like a fried
fiancé
dough twist,
and not letting
Elder,
go. It was
why didn't you
better
just
than
kill her
Luo
directly?
Qingtong,
A silver sword
slave
disciple
and
said
being trampled
indignantly.
on by
Just now,
countless men.
in order to
When that
catch you,
time
Xingqi,
came, they
you
had
would
lost
definitely
several
bring
people.
more people to see
This little
what happened to
slut
her.
was really
That
cunning.
way, people
All
would know
kinds of
how
tricks
cheap
were
she was.
endless.
Thinking
And
of
that cat
this,
by her side
Su
was also
Jin was
very
sneered.
cunning.
However,
If they didn't have
just as she
so
was
many
about to smile
people,
boom,
they really
the
wouldn't
sound
be able
of
to
a
catch
violent
her.
collision
Fortunately,
suddenly came from the arena.
Xingqi was alone outside.
In the next second,
Otherwise,
with a
they
bang,
definitely
a
wouldn't be
figure
able to catch
instantly
her.
broke
With such
through
a
the
good
airwaves
opportunity,
that filled the
why
arena
didn't the elder
and
directly
heavily
kill the other
smashed into the
He even wanted
fence
to
that
catch her with
surrounded
great
the arena.
fanfare.
Bang, bang,
Woof.
bang.
What do you
Wherever
know?
that figure
The
flew
group of
past,
silver sword
the
people
iron
were very
floorboards would
embarrassed.
shatter.
That
Silver
silver
sword
elder
fragments
also
flying
seemed to have
everywhere.
suffered heavy injuries.
Senior brother,
He
Senior
coughed
brother must
and
have
scolded
one.
that disciple.
Su Jin
Yu
stood
Huang's
up
strength
excitedly.
is very
However,
strong.
when she
Before
saw the
when it
scene
heart
on
disease,
stage clearly,
we couldn't deal
her
with
scream
it.
stopped.
Now that his heart
Senior
disease
brother
has been
Su
cured,
Jin
and
Yu's
his
voice
strength has
suddenly turned from
greatly.
excited to shrill.
He no longer
There was a
has
look
any
of
words.
disbelief.
How
in
are
her
we going to take
voice.
revenge?
For no other
He
reason.
shouted sternly.
The figure that had
If we
smashed
catch you
into the
Xingqi
fence
in our hands,
was you one.
then
Ma.
you,
Senior brother,
at that time.
how is this possible?
We can take the opportunity.
Chapter 964.
Then we
The girl held her long sword horizontally. The wind and thunder
as for the
sword was
woman who
held
helped
behind
you
her
see
back.
Wong,
The
when she
sound of
arrives,
wind and
I will make
thunder
her wish
lingered
she
on the
was
tip
dead.
of the sword.
Let her know
She
the
lifted her leg
consequences
and
of
slowly
offending
withdrew
the
it.
silver sword.
Obviously,
The
the
elder
elder
had
had
been
been
kicked
kicked
out
out
by
with
with
an
an
extremely cold
Oh my
expression.
God.
As the scene
Yes.
in the arena
The silver
unfolded,
sword members
many people
hurriedly
were
agreed.
shocked. At this
Mo
time,
Qian had
Luo
already stood
Qingtong
up
had already
and was
approached
about to
the
leave
forest.
after giving
Looking at the
Ma
place
Qian
where
a
the wooden
provocative
house
look.
was,
She
she saw the
suddenly
scene in the
raised her
arena.
eyebrows.
His eyes instantly shrank. Luo Qingtong won this battle? Chapter
How could this be?
983.
She had just
broken
bloody
through
light in
to
her
the martial
eyes
emperor
flashed.
realm. And
Even if she was
activated her
gifted,
people technique.
it was impossible
As
for
Luo
her to not be
Qingtong's
affected by Yu
gaze swept
Wenma's
over.
icy
The auras of the people
Moreover,
in and around
Yu
the wooden
Wenma's
house
cultivation
were
was
instantly
slightly
under her
higher than
control.
hers.
After
He could
Luo
completely
Qingtong's
suppress her
strength
strength.
increased.
Why was Yu Wenma the
power
one
of
who
her
was kicked
people
out in the
technique
end?
also
Did
became
he go easy
stronger.
on her?
It
It
wouldn't
wouldn't
take
take
long
long
for her
eyes
to
became
return
at
to
the
the
peak
extremely
state
cold
of her
as he thought about
previous
it.
life.
In the arena,
At that time,
Yu Wenma got up
Luo
from the ground
Qingtong's pair
and
of
wiped the
blood-red
blood off
eyes
his
were
lips.
truly
He looked at
unbreakable
Luo
and
Qingtong
invincible.
with a gaze
However,
that was no
that was
better
in the
than
24th
others.
century.
How could you not be
Now,
affected by
in
my
this strange
icy
world,
aura?
experts
The moment
were
Yu
emerging
Wenma
one
was
after
sent
another.
flying.
Everyone
Luo
was
Qingtong
stunned.
was
Ever
looking
since he
forward to
awakened
seeing
his
how
soul,
far her
pupil
pupil
technique
spiritual
would
body
improve
He had
in the
always been
future.
blessed by
She liked the
nature.
feeling
Just his
of
icy
controlling
aura alone
everything
was enough
and
to
power.
give him the upper
Only
hand
when a
in
person
battle
stood at the
against
peak
someone
of a
the same
mountain
level.
could he be
Not to mention
qualified
that after
to
he
maneuver
reached the
unhindered.
martial emperor
Luo
realm,
Qingtong
the
had
power
been
of his soul
reckless
seal
all her life.
was completely
Even though she had
revealed.
transmigrated,
His strength was more
she
than
wasn't
10
willing to
times
submit
stronger
to
than
others.
before.
There are
However,
quite a lot
Luo
of people
Qingtong
here.
was not
Luo
affected by his
Qingtong's
icy
gaze
aura at
swept
all
over the
in the
wooden
battle
house.
just now.
When she saw the people
Only he
hiding
knew
in
that
and
Luo
around it.
Qingtong's
She
strength
raised her
was not
eyebrows
hindered at all from
slightly.
the beginning to the
A
end.
sage realm
Moreover,
expert,
the
several
strength
martial
of the battle
spirits,
experience
martial
displayed by the
ancestors,
other
and a
party
group
also
of
shocked him.
martial
The
There were
girl that
about
he used to
100
look down
people,
on, compared to
disdain,
Sage Realm
and
sect.
looked down on had
These people
now
were
grown to the
pitifully
point where
weak.
he could not
They should be the
see through her at
surviving
all.
members of
Yu
that
and Ma
sect
could not
who
accept
had
this
escaped.
fact.
Luo
He had always felt
Qingtong
superior
raised
to
her
Luo
eyebrows
Qingtong.
slightly
In his
when she
opinion,
sensed their
no matter
auras.
how strong
Then,
Luo Qingtong
she raised her
was,
eyebrows
she was
and
still
the corner of her
inferior
lips
to
curled
him.
up.
He had a
devilishly.
deep impression
She
of
instantly
Luo Qingtong.
bypassed the wooden
Even
house,
though Luo
and
Qingtong's
continued to
talent
plunge
was
deeper.
stronger than his
The
in the
Blackfield
holy
main
academy
city of the Empire of Qin,
he didn't
holy
think that she could
dynasty
surpass
was
him
surrounded by
or even
mountains
defeat
on
him.
3 sides.
Now he had been slapped
The mountain
in the face.
range behind it
in
rose
front of
and
so
fell
many people
in an
from the same
unrestrained
academy
manner.
of the
It was
Empire
very
of Qin.
majestic and
In particular,
magnificent.
he had
The
once said in
empire of
front
Qin's
of Luo
Blackfield main
Qingtong
city
that if she
was
didn't
never
admit
short of
defeat,
resources,
he would
in such a
cripple her
place.
strength.
Many martial
Now,
artists
these
and
words
spirit
had all become
practitioners
one
even
slap
came here
after
to
another,
hunt,
ruthlessly
and kill demon
slapping
beasts.
his face
Luo
until it was burning
Qingtong's
with pain.
figure went
I don't need to
deeper
tell you.
into the mountain
Luo
range.
Qingtong's voice
Little
was
Pig
cold.
was
Her
dumbfounded
gaze
when he
swept
saw her
past the
raise her
9
hand
nether
from time
phoenix
to time
ring on her
and
left
pull out
ring
some
finger.
herbs along the way.
This ring
She
could
instantly
indeed
crushed them
resist
in a
the
liquid
oppressive
and
aura
splashed
and
them
strength
around.
of
What are you
those
doing?
strong cultivators.
She had almost
So
circled
she was not
around the
affected by
mountain
them.
range.
The icy
She had explored
aura
more than
emitted
half
by
of the
Yuan
mountain
Ma
range
was
at
absorbed
lightning
by the
speed.
ring before it
At
could even get close to her.
Little Pig thought
In the
she was
past,
setting a trap.
Luo Qingtong
In the end,
didn't
he didn't
notice
stop
it,
at all.
But now,
Just like that,
she clearly
they
strolled through a large
Thinking of that
mountain
man who
range.
used the ring
He only
to trap
stayed
her,
in the
but
center
she
of the
mistook
mountain
it for a
range
tracking
for a while.
device.
Little
Luo
Pig's heart
Qingtong
was
lips
bursting
curled
with
up
curiosity.
slightly.
It
It
knew
knew
that
thought her
Luo
smile was
Qingtong
mocking.
must be preparing to deal with the people from
Chapter
Silver
965.
Sword. But it couldn't tell.
Luo Qingtong.
What should they do?
Don't think
Little
that you've
Pig
already
felt
won.
that ever
I haven't
since he
used
contracted
all the
with this
soul
woman,
power in my
his
body
intelligence
yet.
had always
The cold
been looked
air
down upon.
just now.
You'll know
was
when the
just the
time
natural
comes.
release
Luo
of the
Qingtong's
aura of the
expression
soul
was
imprint
indifferent
that you one Ma carried.
He
Her
hadn't
lips
really
curled up
used the
slightly
power of
as
the
she
soul
looked around.
imprint in his
When she
body
found that it
yet.
was about time,
Yuan Ma thought
she
that he
rushed
could
towards
win
the wooden
without
house.
using the soul
And at this
power
time,
in his body.
Yu Xing
But
Qi
now it seemed
already
that he
had
woke up from his
underestimated
coma.
Luo
She looked at the group of
Qingtong's
silver
strength.
sword members.
Luo Qingtong
blinked innocently.
This time I won't
and
show
said,
any mercy.
I say,
As
you
Yuan
really
Mo
caught the
spoke,
wrong person.
He flew up into
My
the sky.
brother,
and I
he
have
crossed
never
his
gotten
hands
along
in front of his
since we were
chest,
young, forming
Don't you
a
know how
strange
happy
gesture.
he was when you
In the next
captured me?
second, the aura of the
She
surrounding
sighed
space
deeply.
changed.
You don't know
Frost
this,
Moonblade,
but the position
following
of the
Yuan
Master
Ma's
was
voice.
supposed to be passed
In
to
an
me.
instant,
But you
crescent-shaped
also know
ice
that I'm
blades
still
appeared
young,
in the sky.
so my brother
all
took it
around
away
them.
from me.
Soul skill.
You've really made a big
Countless
mistake
frost
by
blades appeared
capturing
in the
me.
sky.
If you let me go,
and
I
then
can
with a
still compete
wave
with
of
my
you
brother
one
for the
Ma's
position
hand,
of
they
Sect
flew
Master.
toward
You've captured
Luo
me
Qingtong
and killed me.
As those
Aren't you
frost
going
blades
against my brother's
flew,
wishes?
The sky flickered with an incomparably cold light. Biting cold, murderous
Chapter
intent
984.
rose.
If you want to use me to
directions.
threaten my brother,
When a
then
soul
you're wrong.
practitioner
You can see
activated
that I
their
don't
soul
even have a
imprint,
guard when I'm outside.
they could directly use
So
the
you know my
power
position
of
in my
heaven
brother's
and
heart.
earth
You better let me
corresponding
go
to their soul
quickly.
imprints.
A
As
tribute
Yu Xing
to
Qi
form an
spoke,
attack
he
in
cried
midair.
pitifully.
In just an instant,
the frost
Yu Xing
blades
Qi,
came down like
you
rain,
little witch,
exploding
don't say these
toward
things to
Luo
sway our hearts.
Qingtong.
Even
There's
if you
almost
see
no
one
place
doesn't
to
care
dodge
about your life
such a
or
concentrated
death,
attack.
so what?
If
Rumble.
we kill you,
Explosions
it will be a heavy
rang out in
blow
the
to
sky.
Imperial
Luo
sect
Qingtong's
prestige.
eyes
You just stay
narrowed
here
in an
obediently.
In the next
Wait
second,
for us to kill that
she
woman who
activated
spoiled
the
our
pupil
plans.
technique.
Then
in
we'll
her
bring
eyes.
you to
in the
find
midst
Yu
of the
Xihong.
countless frost
Look at his
blades.
ugly face.
Her eyes instantly saw
the elder of
through
the
a
silver
safe
sword
route.
sect
Swish.
laughed loudly.
Luo Qingtong's
Who is the
figure
woman who
swept up
spoiled
in
your
an
plans?
instant.
The girl's
Yu Xing
figure was like a
Qi blinked her
black
eyes and
butterfly
asked.
shuttling back
They couldn't be
and
talking
forth
about
in the
that
snowy
evil
plains
Dr.
of the
Ghost
Northern
Eye,
Kingdom.
right?
That
Flitting
woman who
quickly
saved
among
her
them.
brother,
Her
just as she
fluttering
was thinking
sleeves
about
and hair,
this,
she
set
heard that
off by
silver
her
sword
lithe
elder
and
coldly
agile
said,
were
"Of course it's that woman who
indescribably
saved your brother
boom, boom,
and caused our
The
silver
sharp
sword
ice
plan
blades
to be
missed
ruined
her and
exterminating
bombarding
our
our
entire
entire
family."
In the next second, just as his
Luo
voice
Qingtong
fell, they
leaped into the
instantly
air.
heard a voice
The bloody
coming from
light
outside.
in her eyes
Is that
flickered.
so?
So
I actually did
I'll
such a
return your
big
attack.
thing.
As
no
she
wonder
spoke,
you see Huang
she raised her
wanted to
hands
travel thousands
and
of
crossed them
miles
in
to
front
give
of
me
her
a
chest.
gift. When they saw
Following
that
this
hand
voice,
gesture,
with a bang,
everyone in the
wooden
surrounding
house's
arenas
door was kicked
instantly
open.
let
A
out
figure
a series
instantly
of
appeared in
exclamations.
front of everyone.
Her
Could
clothes
this
were
be?
red like fire.
That's impossible.
Her face was like a
Everyone was
hibiscus,
stunned as
beautiful
they looked
enough
at
to
Luo
topple
Qingtong's
cities,
hands
evil
that were
and
crossed in front of
enchanting.
her chest.
The young girl
For a
who appeared
moment,
in front of
they
them
were at a loss
was
for
evil
words.
and domineering.
They looked at
to the
Luo
extreme,
Qingtong in
also
shock.
enchanting.
Even Yuan
and
Ma's
charming to the
pupils
extreme.
constricted
When
when
he
he
saw
saw
Luo
Luo
Qingtong
seeing the figure of
cross
the
her
young
hands.
girl who appeared in front of her.
He shook his head
Qi's little
fiercely
mouth
in his heart.
instantly opened
Luo
wide.
Qingtong,
That
can't
pair of
possibly
intelligent
do it.
eyes
That's
also
before he
instantly
could finish his
froze
thoughts.
for a moment.
Luo
Oh my God,
Qingtong's
what did she
voice
just hear?
suddenly rang
Luo
out in the
Qingtong
sky. Was evil
Frost
Dr.
Moonblade.
Ghost Eye. Boom,
That
boom, boom.
beautiful young
As
girl
Luo
who saved her
Qingtong's
brother
voice
and
rang
was
out.
constantly mentioned
Frost
by the
blades
latter,
suddenly
as Yu
floated in
Xing
the
Qi
air
thought
around
this.
her. That little mouth of his suddenly
figure that
opened
flickered
even
with an
wider.
icy cold
She
glint
completely
in
didn't
midair
think in
and
that
the icy
direction,
cold
to the
aura
extent that she
scattered
was
in all
somewhat
directions
dumbfounded.
instantly caused
This result
everyone
was
around
simply
to be shocked
too
speechless.
shocking. Who would
Oh
have
my
thought
God.
that the young lady
Isn't this the
who had
unique
risen
soul
from
skill
inferior
that Yuan Ma
country
just
was
used?
actually the famous
Everyone
evil
looked at
Dr.
this scene in
Ghost,
shock.
who was sought after by everyone.
Chapter
All
966.
At this time, Yu
Didn't
Xing
she need
Qi
to have the
remembered that
same
according
type
to the
of soul
information
power
he had
as her
before,
opponent to use it?
Luo Qingtong
Could it be that
came from the
Luo
eastern border
Qingtong
country,
was also
an
a evil
soul
Dr. Ghost,
personage with an
I had
ice-type
risen
soul
from the
imprint.
Blackfield
But
city
how did she
of the
learn
eastern
Yu
border
Wenma's
country?
unique
But
soul
who could link the
skill
two of
in
them
an instant?
together? Wasn't
Evil
this too
Dr.
abnormal?
Ghost, I became
While everyone was
famous in a
dumbstruck,
single day.
Little Pig was even
He
more
was
shocked than
valiant
them.
and
Oh
evil.
my God!
And
Little Pig
incomparably
stared at the
domineering.
ice blades
And
floating
Luo
around him.
Qingtong
Luo
was only the
Qingtong
D-daughter
didn't know
of a
what to
small
say.
marquis.
He
Who
knew
would
that
have thought
Luo
that she was the
Qingtong
evil Dr.
wasn't an
Ghost
ice-type soul personage.
So how did she
Just as
unleash
Yuxingqi's
such a
small
soul
mouth
skill?
slightly
Little
opened
Pig's
and her
small
almond-shaped eyes
wide
wide
open.
open.
On
The
the other
Grand Dean
side,
also turned his head to look at
still
Yi
didn't know
Qianren in
Luo
shock.
Qingtong's
That
identity.
girl is also
The
an
moment they
ice-type
saw the
soul
girl appear,
personage. Their gazes
Wasn't
were
this
fixed
too much
on
a coincidence?
Luo Qingtong's
Not only did
face.
she have the same
That's
type of
her,
soul imprint as
seeing
Yuan
this
Mao,
very
but
familiar
she also
face,
knew his
the
soul
crowd
skill.
of Silver Sword
The
people
Grand Dean
immediately
couldn't believe
cried
it.
out.
He suddenly
Kill
remembered
her.
the rumor
That
about
Silver
Luo
Sword elder
Qingtong's
flicked his
previous
sleeves
identity
and said,
as the evil
simply
doctor
disdaining
Ghost
to
Eye.
make a move.
It was said that the
Bang,
Marshall
bang,
King
bang,
expert
as
sent
his
by the
voice
Chung
sounded.
family to
In an
kidnap
instant,
her slaves
the
died at
entire
the hands
wooden
of her
house
own
was
unique
filled with an
skill.
incomparably
At that time,
unrestrained
he didn't pay
aura
much
from
attention
all
to the
directions.
rumors and thought it was just a coincidence or some other reason. But now it seemed this
Chapter
last actually knew any
985.
combat skill
Go
that
to
she
hell.
saw. A group
Even
of
her soul
people's
skill
aura
was
moved
no
like
exception.
a net. Heading
While the
towards
Grand
Luo
Dean was still in
Qingtong
shock,
to shroud her.
Yi Qianqian's
In the sky
eyes
and on the
flashed
ground,
with deep
there is no
astonishment.
escape.
The girl's
But that's
ability
for other
had
people.
always
In an
exceeded
instant,
his
the
expectations.
bloody light in
Ever since he
Luo
met her,
Qingtong's
she had been
eyes
constantly
shines.
giving him
In
surprises.
an instant, this
A
time was
bloody
no
light
exception.
soars from the
Sometimes,
depths of her eyes.
Yi Qianqian
Originally,
even
her
wondered
clear
if Luo
eyes were
Qingtong
filled with red
was a
mist.
treasure
But in
specially
an
bestowed
instant,
to him
they
by the
become
heavens,
bloody,
reigniting his
incomparably
interest
strange.
and longing
Luo
for this world.
Qingtong's beautiful
Boom, boom,
face
boom.
turned
While everyone was
demonic
still in
an
shock,
instant.
the
She
ice
was like a
blades
demon
around
that
Luo
bewitched people's
Qingtong's
hearts.
body
If you want to
suddenly
kill me,
shot
then
toward
come.
the stunned Yuan Mao.
Luo
Like
Qingtong
falling
says,
stars.
and
The
in an
latter
instant,
didn't expect
her
this at
figure
all
moves.
and couldn't dodge
The
in
wind
time.
and thunder,
In the next
sword
second,
in her
bang,
hand,
bang, bang
comes out of its
Violent
sheath.
sounds came
Clang,
one
an
after
extremely
another.
accurate
In an instant,
sword.
Yuan
Passing
Mao's
through a
figure
group
was
of people's
surrounded by
aura
the ice
in
blades.
an instant.
Under
Those
such
ropes tied to
circumstances,
Yu Xingqi's
Yuan
body
Mo's
are
figure
all
was
cut open.
instantly blasted away
After
by
saying
those
that,
sharp
her
ice
voice
blades.
also
His
quickly
defense was
rushes out.
sliced apart.
The
by
girl's steps
sharp,
are like moving
icy
clouds
blades.
and flowing
Countless
water,
moon blades
naturally
slashed
graceful
across his
to the
body.
extreme.
In an instant,
It's almost the most
Yuan
perfect
Mao let out
posture.
a
Every
blood-curdling
step
scream.
is just right.
His whole
Just
body
enough to
flew
avoid those
into the
auras
air
coming from all
and heavily
directions.
smashed
In an
into
instant,
the ground.
she rushes
The
out of the
surroundings
door.
fell.
If you
into
have the ability,
absolute silence.
then come and chase.
Everyone looked at the girl.
Luo
standing
Qingtong
across from them
says,
with shock.
and her figure
In that
instantly
instant,
disappears
she was
from
domineering,
everyone's eyes,
valiant,
rushing
enchanting,
towards the mountain
and
forest.
beautiful.
Chase.
It almost made them
The
think
Silver
that they
Sword
saw the
sect
goddess
elder
of war.
flew into a
Cough
rage.
impossible.
When he saw that
Luo
Yu Xingqi
Qingtong
had also
How can you know the
disappeared,
ice
the
crescent
veins
blade?
on his forehead
Yuan
popped
Ma's
out.
Yuan Ma's.
In any case,
his soul
they
skill
must
was
leave
born
one
from
of them
his soul
behind
imprint.
today.
Yuan
Since
Mo
Luo
was born with a
Qingtong
cold
let Yu
disease.
Xingqi go,
His body couldn't
then she would
withstand
use
the
herself
erosion
as
of
compensation.
the cold air. In any case, the
If
other
he didn't want
side
to die,
is also
he could only destroy the
ice cold,
catching the other side,
But this way,
and killing him in
Yuan
front of
Ma's
Yu
innate
Xihong
soul
can also
seal
achieve
would
their
be
goal.
destroyed.
Thinking
The
like
Tianyu
this,
imperial
he
family
suddenly
was
waves his
unwilling.
hand.
The
leading a
Tianyu
group
Empress
of
begged
Silver
in
Sword
every
people
way
to chase.
possible and set up a
Swish,
marriage
swish,
contract with
Luo
Qingtong's
Qingtong's speed
mother.
is
She
extremely
swore
fast.
to treat
her figure in the dense
Qingtong
forest,
well, erratically moving forward.
Chapter
making
9,
the group of Silver
67.
Sword people
Just
behind
like
her
that,
unable.
Luo
to catch her
Qingtong's
track.
mother managed to
The members of the
suppress
Silver
the
Sword
cold
sect
energy
were
in
so
Yuan Ma's
angry
body
that
at
they
the
were
cost of her
stamping
own
with
life.
rage.
And the
Especially that
token.
Silver Sword
For
elder,
so many years,
using the power of
Yuan
the sage
Mo
realm.
relied on
But
the
he still
suppression
can't
of the
stop
engagement
Luo
token
Qingtong
to become the genius
making the
he was
blue
today.
veins on his
But
forehead.
he didn't
jump.
expect.
How could he
Luo
know that
Qingtong
Luo
to be able to
was
use
able to
his
easily
own
escape
unique
from Yi
soul
Qianqian's
skill?
hands?
How could this be?
Let alone him.
That was a soul
the
skill
magical
that could only
effect
be
of the eye
used
technique
because of his
in this
innate
mountain
cold
forest
illness.
is even
How could
more
Luo
displayed
Qingtong use
to the
it?
extreme.
Yuan Ma couldn't
Luo
believe it,
Qingtong's
but the
every
truth was
step,
right in front of
every
him.
landing
Yuan Ma
is in Silver
Luo
Sword
Qingtong's
people's
voice
blind
was
spot,
cold,
so that
as
they
she
could see her
slowly
figure,
stepped forward.
but they can't catch her
Tianyu's
trace.
imperial family
The group
once
of people
had a
moved
marriage
forward
agreement
at high
with my
speed.
Luo
Follow
family.
this woman. From then
Even
on,
if we have to
you,
waste,
we
you
have to
should have
kill her.
died from your innate
After the
cold
elder of the
illness
Silver Sword
became a
sect
genius
unleashed
of
his
Tianyu
holy
Empire
stage power
and the Empire
several
of Qin
times
Holy
in a
Dynasty.
row to no avail.
You entered the
He
Empire
gave up
of Qin
completely.
Holy Academy.
He gritted his teeth
and soared
and
to the
shouted,
top
with a limitless future. He
doesn't
the
believe
entire
that
Tianyu
Luo
Empire
Qingtong,
and
a
Tianyu's
martial
imperial
emperor,
family
can waste more
benefited
time
from
than
your genius.
Let her run. Let's
But
see
how
how
did you
long
treat
she
me
can run
in the Luo
when she
family?
starts to exhaust
Luo
her strength.
Qingtong,
They will take her
stared
down.
coldly at
At that
Yuan Ma,
time,
who was struggling
she will
to
suffer
get up
a
from the
fate
ground.
worse than
You
death.
treated me
That
and the
Silver
Luo
Sword elder's
family
face
as
is cold and
You
stern.
treated our marriage
Swish,
agreement
swish,
as a disgrace.
The group of people
Tanya's
quickly moved
imperial
into
family
mountain range,
did their best to
startling
trample
waves
on
of
the Luo
insects
family.
and birds. And my grandfather,
Soon, Luo
have you
Qingtong's
forgotten
figure
that you
stopped.
knelt on the ground
Humph,
and begged
you can't
for
run
this
anymore,
marriage agreement?
right?
It was you,
That silver
Yuan Ma,
sword
who
elder's
tricked
face
us.
is ferocious.
Yuan Ma lied to the young Luo Qingtong that he would die if they didn't get engaged.
Chapter
Luo
986.
Qingtong cried and
Later,
begged to marry him.
I will let you know what
Luo
it means to
Qingtong's
wish you were
mother
dead.
finally
The
agreed
silver
to
sword
the marriage.
elder laughed.
But how did
coldly.
Yuan Ma and
Everyone will have to
Tianyu's
share.
imperial family
Let's have a
treat
taste of the
Luo
savior, the
Qingtong
king,
and
of
the
the
Luo
southern
family.
region.
Luo
As he spoke,
Qingtong's
his
eyes
face
were
was
cold.
filled with coldness.
Yuan Ma had taken
and
so
lust.
much from the Luo
Don't worry,
family
later I will
and Luo
fulfill
Qingtong.
all of your wishes.
She was going to make him pay it
Luo
all
Qingtong
back. Crossed her
Genius,
arms in front of her chest
fiancé,
and
he
stood
wasn't
where
worthy
she was
Boom.
Looking calm,
Luo
and
Qingtong
relaxed.
raised her
Her
hand.
posture was
and
strange.
instantly,
She
she
was
was
standing
standing
right
right
in the middle of the group of
Frost
people.
Moonblade.
Countless
Shameless
ice blades
boasting.
descended from
You were
the
about to
sky
die,
and
and
blasted
you were still
Yuan
talking
Ma
big.
away once again.
When the Silver
She was
Sword
born
Elder
with the
heard her
mixed Yuan
words,
body.
He used
She
his
could use
divine
all the
consciousness
power
to
as
scan
soon
the
as she got her
surroundings
hands
to
on
make
it.
sure that there
Others
was
might
no
not be able to
ambush
use
or
Yuan
killing
Ma's
intent.
unique soul
This
skill,
woman must be
but it was a
lying to
piece of
them.
cake.
Did
for
she
Luo
think that they would be
Qingtong.
scared?
After
Is that
activating
so?
his dojutsu
Luo
to
Qingtong
copy
looked
the
at them,
moves,
and suddenly
it was time for
smiled
Luo
evilly.
Qingtong
What these people
to
didn't
perform
know was that
she would
she
let Yuan
Evil
Ma
Eye
know what a
was
true
never one to
genius
boast,
was.
and she
In
never
the past,
lied. He looked
she was a
down
woman
on
of her
Luo
words
Qingtong,
and her actions,
thinking that she
were
was just a
resolute.
stain and a
Snap.
disgrace.
Luo
in his
Qingtong
glorious
raised her
career.
hand.
He allowed
and snapped her
Tianyu's
fingers.
imperial family to
It was as if the
humiliate
entire
and despise
forest could hear
Luo
this
Qingtong.
sound.
In
Little B
every
asterisk
possible way.
TCH.
Today,
What the hell
she
are
was
you
going
doing?
to trample on him.
The Silver
and
Sword
tell
Elder
him
looked
that
serious.
he was nothing.
He did not
Bang.
know why.
Yuan Ma's
but he had a
body
bad
fell
feeling
to the
that he
ground
could
again.
not get rid of.
This time,
This was
his
the
body's
heavenly
defenses
perception
weren't
weren't
able
able
to
to withstand it.
At their level,
Yuan Ma
their
spat
every
out
move
a
was in sync
mouthful
with
of
the
blood
spiritual
after
chi
two
of
consecutive
heaven and
attacks,
earth, using his
and they could
most
sense
prized
danger.
move. However, the girl
What
in
made
front
his
of
face
him
turn
was
ashen
only
was
a
that the
martial
same
emperor,
attack
and
she
the
was
same
all
soul
alone.
skill.
So what if she
couldn't
was
compare
powerful?
to Luo?
Could she be so
Qingtong's?
powerful that she
Not
could
only did she
defeat
learn his
and
soul skill
kill
in
all
an
of them,
instant,
the
but she
Silver
also
Sword
used
Elder
it better than
did
him.
not believe it.
Yuan Ma
That was
sense of
simply
superiority
impossible.
was completely
Someone who could do
shattered.
such a thing
Boom,
must
boom,
not
boom.
be human.
One attack,
However,
after
he
another
soon
landed
realized
on
what
Yuan
Luo
Ma's body.
Qingtong had done.
Every attack
Snap,
was Yuan
snap,
Ma's
snap.
most prized move.
As the young girl snapped her fingers, they heard the sound.
Chapter
It was as
9,
if something was pulling them.
Thank you for being as blind as
around
a
the
bat
entire
and
mountain
mistaking
range
fish eyes
in the
for
places where
pearls.
Luo Qingtong
Also, thank
had
your
wandered
Tianyu royal
before
family for
in the
looking
woods
down on
and
us
under the grass
and letting our Luo
there seemed to be a
family
domino
see
effect.
the truth
From a place where
if it wasn't
Luo
for you
Qingtong
and the
stood,
Tianyu royal family,
there seemed to be a
I wouldn't be
continuous
here
line
today
that spread
if the
outwards.
previous host hadn't
Pa,
died.
pa, pa.
She
The
wouldn't have
series
been
of
able to
explosions
transmigrate
rang out,
and wouldn't
the
have been
places
able to
where
appear
Luo
on this
Qingtong
stage.
had splashed
So everything
something
had a
with
cause
wave
and
of her
effect.
hand were now
It wasn't that
filled
she
with
didn't want
mist.
revenge.
In an
It
instant,
wasn't time yet.
The entire mountain range
Another
seemed
attack
to be
landed on
shrouded
you
in a
when
faint
Mo's
layer
body.
of mist.
This attack is
Oh,
for the threat you
roar,
gave me before.
roar.
You
As
want
the
me to
smoke
admit
rose,
defeat
the eyes
and
of all the
kowtow
demonic
to
beasts in
others
the
to
entire
protect
mountain
me.
range that
You and
smelled
Mo,
the smoke
I don't know how you have the
instantly
face to
turned
say
red.
such things.
The aura of the
Are you
smoke
proud?
stimulated
A man can't
causing
even
them to
protect his
lose
own
their
woman,
minds,
and she has
and
to
fall
compromise
into
to
a state of
protect
madness.
herself. Beast
Do you feel
attracting
a sense of
powder.
accomplishment?
The things that
Does
Luo
that count as
Qingtong had
protecting
splashed
me?
along the
Then
road
I really have
were
to
shockingly
thank you
beast
for not
attracting
protecting
powder
me.
aimed at
Luo
various
Qingtong's
beasts,
eyes were cold,
which could
and her
stimulate
face
them
was
to go
filled with
crazy.
disgust.
Boom,
as
boom,
she looked
boom.
at you and Mo.
Most of her disgust,
All the
towards
demons you
beasts
won
that
Ma
had smelled
came
the
from the
smoke
memories of the
instantly
original owner.
ran
You won
madly
Ma's
towards
inaction
the place
towards
where
the
the
ungrateful
smoke was
actions of the Tianyu
and the
imperial
destination of the
family
smoke had
was the
wasted
place
the
where
prime
Luo
of the original
Qingtong
owner's life
and the others were
and
standing.
directly led
At the same
to
time,
the original
Buzz.
owner's death. Then the words you and Mo said to her a few days ago made her feel extreme disgust. Chapter
towards you and Mo.
987. Only the most
array,
cowardly
seeing
and
these
incompetent
bright
man
silver
wouldn't even
lights,
dare
the Silver
to protect
Sword
his
sect
own woman.
elder's expression
He even asked her to
suddenly froze.
sacrifice herself.
Then,
he
he
raised
raised
his
his for her
voice
own
and
good?
sneered. If it
Do you
wasn't
think
for the
you could
fact
stop
that
us
she wanted
with
to
just
give
this
the previous
formation?
host
Ridiculous.
and the Luo family
There were
an
so many of
explanation,
them here.
she would have
He didn't
stepped on
believe
him
that
in the most
Luo
ruthless
Qingtong
way
could set up
possible
in advance
front of
array.
everyone.
So what if
Luo
she set up a
Qingtong
sage
had
array?
already split
In the face
this
of
self-righteous
absolute
man
power,
apart. All
when
her
you and Mo
struggles
were
came to
feuding.
find her that day.
The elder of the
How much
Silver
glory
Sword sect
and
sneered.
opportunity
That's
did
right.
he think he gave
Luo
her?
Qingtong's
She didn't know what
smile
was
was
good for
faint
her,
and
she was
wanting.
really sorry.
In the face of
she
absolute
really didn't
power,
need such
all
a
your
disgusting
struggles are
opportunity.
futile.
It was
So,
best for
don't even
trash like
think
you
about
and Mo
struggling.
to
Just
scram
enjoy it.
as far as
When her
possible.
voice rang out,
Pum.
the people of
You
the
and
Silver
Mo's
Sword
body
sect
heavily hit the ground.
immediately
Luo
felt that
Qingtong's
something was
every
wrong.
strike
They
was
suddenly
extremely
realized that the
ruthless.
array formation
She didn't show
that
any
had
mercy.
lit up around them
You and Ma's
was actually
face
an
was
entrapment
ashen
after
type,
being
defeated
defeated by
array
signature
formation.
move.
And
This
it was
array
even his
enveloped
unique
them
soul
and skill.
Luo Qing
He
Tong,
clutched his wound,
making it
and lay on the
impossible for
ground,
them to escape.
exhaling heavily.
What was going on?
His
What
entire
the hell
body
was this woman
seemed to have
doing?
gone limp.
The people from
as
the
he
Silver
watched the
Sword
young
sect
girl
originally
slowly
thought
walk over
that
like an
Luo
Azure
Qing
goddess.
Tong's array
He really didn't
formation
know
was
which
an
part of his
offensive
heart
one.
was more emotional.
Its purpose was to
regret,
deal with them.
frustration,
But now,
this
humiliation
array's function was
shock,
to trap them
disbelief,
here. Luo Qing
various
Tong
emotions
was also
intertwined
in the array.
together.
What is she trying to
Causing
do?
Yuan Ma's
Just when
heart
the
to
Silver
be as
Sword elders
colorful
were
as the
feeling
expression on his
uneasy,
face.
rumble.
It was as exciting
Suddenly,
as a palate.
the sound
Before
of fierce
today,
galloping rang out around
It should be
them.
said that before
The sound
this
of
moment,
four
he
hooves
never
and
thought
feet
that one
stomping
day
on the ground
he would be
was
beaten
so
by
intense.
Luo Qing Tong
At the same
like a
time,
dog without any
howls
ability
rang
to
out one
fight back.
after another.
The whole mountain
What's
forest
more,
seemed
the
to
opponent
shake
was
in
using
an
his
instant.
most prized
The earth
move,
shook.
and
Yuan
the
Ma
trees
felt as
trembled.
if he had been slapped
Hearing
in the
these
face
sounds
by
the
the
Silver
Silver
Sword
Sword elders'
His expression
expression was
changed
extremely
greatly.
ugly. At the same time, it was a beast. He was extremely regretful. The members of the Silver Sword sect were power that Luo Qingtong. They never thought that a beast tide was much stronger than he had imagined. Where was this place? Was this what that person? The main city of the Black Field of the Empire of Qin. The surrounding mountains were all cleared by the powerhouses with the talented and powerful young girl with the powerhouses of the Black Field and the main city of the Empire of Qin. Docile and well-behaved. The demon beasts in the nearby mountains were all well-behaved. Didn't that mean that he could hunt the powerhouses who entered the enviable fiancé? But they couldn't assemble as well as the enormous benefits that she was hiding behind. They would be killed by the powerhouses of the Black Field. What did he miss out on? Yuan Ma's heart was filled with deep regret from the sounds. It seemed like just as he was thinking was coming. Luo Qingtong had already stepped. You actually triggered a beast. She narrowed her eyes at the man who indirectly caused the original owner of the body. Luo Qingtong's words meant. She bent down. This woman had actually attracted that was revealed on his neck, even trapped during the battle. Was she crazy? Luo Qingtong had already locked. Was she prepared to perish together with him? That silver sword wearing around his neck looked at Luo Qingtong. The design and like he was looking at a lunatic feeling quickly stopped the beast Qingtong certain. Otherwise, what you die too. The Luo expression's engagement token. No. Sensing Luo Qingtong's actions, Luo Qingtong Yuan Ma instantly fighting back from the struggle violently was a real ignoring his serious. The strength of their group in that instant not enough in front of this beast. He and Luo Qingtong had a wagered battle, covered the earth, and not an ordinary. No matter how powerful he was, the price for losing was to give up his engagement. It would be difficult for him to escape and return the engagement token given to him by the Luo family. There might be sacred betrothal token in this mountain range. Before Yuan Ma could make a move, Luo Qingtong, who had been eyeing the Jade Pendant for a long time, if he released this restriction and removed the beast tide, the moment he swear to the heavens that he pulled the Jade Pendant off his hand, will never attack you. She and Yuan Ma had set up this Silver Sword will no longer attack so that she could snatch Silver Sword already exists in name only. As for the engagement, as long as they get rid of this, she had long since still attack caring about Luo Qingtong. Evil at that time, marriage make her more miserable than now. Just because that they Silver Sword Elder's eyes, how could Yuan Ma not remove hiding just because he said so and insidiousness? He thought Jade Pendant was pulled off. Did this Yuan Ma instantly let out a blood-curdling Wait until they get through this crisis. This blood-curdling scream will make the other side even more tragic. However, he had been attacked. Just as he was thinking, and it was filled with Luo Qingtong in just an instant. Different expression. Yuan Ma, is it? Who was on the stage? Unfortunately, screamed the girl smiley under the shocked and enchanted crowd. Evil. He curled up into a ball. You are willing to let me go, the stage, but I am not willing to let you give it back to me. Give that Jade Pendant without removing the roots. It will grow again. Screamed miserably when Luo Qingtong. These people have seen the Jade Pendant off his hand. They know that she is the one who saved you emanated from his body. Sooner or later, they will know her identity from the icy aura evil Dr. Ghost Eye. This icy aura had never condensed on Yuan Ma's future troubles. In just a moment, the other side Yuan Ma's body, she will use this as an opportunity, turning his entire body purple from the cold. Anyone who even the power in his body, Luo Qingtong will not allow them natural to have cold any chance to live. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows when she saw the sound of those beasts galloping out of Yuan Ma's even more intense. So that's it. All around, Ma's demon beasts have appeared with ferocious faces. Was it suppressed by the Jade Pendant? Their mouths became a part of his power. Saliva. Their mouths are now that she had taken the Jade, their eyes are crazy. The icy aura looking at the Silver Sword people in the middle of the open control, and began as if they were looking at delicious food. And after suppressing it for so many years, Luo Qingtong from the icy beast powder in the was fierce enough after the explosion. The smell is enough to make all the demon beasts in the mountains go crazy. Luo Qingtong set up such a trap here in order to make the Silver Sword and rolling on the stage, invite you into the trap. Felt that he deserved it. As using the smell of the engagement powder spread, given by the original large number of mother to suppress the those demon beasts that arrived first and increase have already launched an attack. He actually didn't treat the other party and in their eyes family well. These people in front of them are all enemies and food. Break Chapter 9. Let's break out of here. As Luo Qingtong, the Silver Sword people shouted loudly, she held the engagement attacked the array in front of them with all their might. She was originally prepared to cripple you. What shocked them was that no matter how they attacked, the array in front of them, now seeing the cold energy erupting from his body, the Silver Sword Elder's expression felt that there was no need to do one of horror. This originally thought that Luo Qingtong had just casually arranged the pain of the cold to trap them. What he was truly fearful clearly was the beast tide. But because of the cold thought that the other party couldn't take another step Saint Stage Array from now on. How is this possible? He would have no chance. The other party increase his strength. Was only a martial never having the chance to reach the peak was more. How could he have set up a Saint crippling his strength?
How he stepped on the original owner.
This was something that could only be set up by a saint-level
now let him
spiritual
pay it
array
back.
master.
Let him feel
It could
that
only
if
be
it wasn't for
activated
the
with
original
the aura
owner
of
and
the
the
saint
Luo
realm
family.
expert.
His
What
life
he didn't
would be
know
worse
was
than
that
death.
with Luo
She relied on
Qingtong's
stepping
technique,
on the Luo
she could activate
family
the saint
and the
realm
original
formation
owner
in
to
a
get
short
so
period
many
of time
years of
with a
comfort
relatively
and
low
glory.
strength.
Now,
Although
although
this
this
array
array
formation
Luo
could only
Qingtong
last for a
thought,
limited time,
as she raised her
it was enough
hand,
to trap
an
them in the
invisible
beast
force
tide
entered
and make them
Wenmo's
unable
body.
to extricate
This force wouldn't
themselves.
cause any
Luo
harm to
Qingtong's
Wenmo,
purpose was not
but
to
it was
trap
enough to
them
make the
in this
cold
array
energy
formation,
in Wenmo's
but to make it
body
impossible
unable
for them
be
to
cured.
escape from
In the
this beast
future,
tide.
UNMO
Rumble
would
while
have
the
to
people
live
of the
with
Silver
this
Sword
cold
sect
energy
were for the
frantically
rest of his
attacking the
life.
formation.
This was the price he
The
had to pay
demonic
for being
beasts that were
ungrateful
rushing over from
till
all
Luo
directions
Qingtong
also
and
arrived.
the Luo
Bang,
family.
bang, bang. After doing all this, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold, and she turned to jump
Chapter
off the stage.
989.
At this time,
Attacks
Su
flashed
Jinyue,
one
after another,
who had been
in the sky
completely stunned
above
by
the
what had
open
happened.
space, finally
The auras
reacted.
pierced through the
Senior
sky.
brother. The howls
She looked
of
at
the
UNMO,
ferocious beasts
who was
and the
almost
screams
frozen
of the
into
Silver
an ice
Sword
man.
people were
His body
endless.
was covered in bruises,
Looking at the people of
and
the
he
Silver
kept
Sword
screaming
people he
and
brought
rolling
here.
around.
Under the siege
She couldn't
of the
believe
demon
that this was a
beasts,
man
the
she
Silver
loved
Sword
so
elder's
much.
body emitted
How was
a
this
burst
possible?
of coldness.
Luo
He looked at the
Qingtong
center
not
of the open
only
space
won against Senior Brother,
at the girl with
but
a
also
happy
made him
and
like
calm
this.
face.
Su
and asked
Jinyue
with
didn't know about the
difficulty,
cold
"Who are
energy
you?"
in Yuenmo's
A girl who
body.
can attract
She only
so
thought
many
that
demon
Luo
beasts with
Qingtong
beast attracting
made him
powder.
like this.
A
And
girl who can
immediately
casually
cried
set
out,
up a sage
Luo
realm
Qingtong,
array in this open space.
your mind is too
That Silver
vicious.
Sword Elder was
What did you
very
do to
sure.
Senior Brother?
He had never heard of such a
Luo
girl's
Qingtong
reputation. If
ignored
the other
her
party
completely.
was so
She
powerful,
walked to the edge of the
it was
ring and
absolutely
was about to jump
impossible
down.
for him
At this
not
moment,
to have heard of it.
an angry
The other
roar
party
came from
who
behind
was
the
she?
crowd,
I
not
thought
far away.
you should have already guessed
Stop
it.
right there.
It seems that my
The Soul
previous
Institute's
disguise
head
was too
teacher
good. rushed
Luo
over.
Qingtong
He didn't
said
think that UNMO
and raised her
would
hand to
lose
cover her face
to
with a
Luo
Rakshasa
Qingtong.
ghost mask.
He didn't even come to the
girl's
battle.
temperament
She only
changed
waited for
in an
UNMO
instant.
to
It
cripple
became
Luo
androgynous,
Qingtong's
strong,
strength
and
bring him
evil.
to kneel
Before,
and apologize to him.
Luo
Who would
Qingtong's
have thought
temperament
that
was
after waiting for
enchanting
so
and
long,
charming.
he would receive the
domineering
news
and
that
evil.
UNMO had
But now,
lost the bet.
her temperament was a
Furthermore,
bit
the
more
cold energy of the
androgynous,
soul seal
making her
in his
look a
body
lot
had
colder
actually
and more
backfired.
domineering.
After
Evil
receiving
Dr.
the news,
Ghost,
I,
the Soul
looking at the
Institute's
Rakshasa
great teacher,
ghost mask
immediately
that appeared
rushed
in
to the
front of
sky
him,
halls.
that
training
Silver
arena.
Sword Elder's
When he saw
complexion
Yuenma's
became
appearance on the
completely
stage,
pale.
he
guessed
immediately
the identity
flew into
of
a rage.
countless girls, including that
Luo
place.
Qingtong.
But he didn't expect
What did he do to
that
make him
Luo
like this?
Qingtong's
He
identity
Luos
turn out to be
Qingtong's
that popular
raises
youth in the
his
black
and
field,
grab
even in the
her.
entire Eastern Domain.
Return him to his original
Evil Dr.
state
Ghost Eye.
immediately.
How could it be her?
Otherwise,
Evil Dr.
don't
Ghost,
blame me
I was
for
actually
being
impolite.
That Silver
Su
Sword
Deheng
Elder's
immediately
complexion
determined
turned
that
ashen.
Luo Qingtong
He finally
had used
remembered
some
the news
underhanded
that
method
he and the others
to
had
deal with
inquired
you
about
and
before.
He
You see,
immediately
Huang
raised his
brought
hands
gifts
to
to
grab
visit
her.
the Black
The
Field,
Soul
but was
Institute's
driven out by
head
the
teacher's
Black
pressure
Field's
instantly
They
suppressed
thought that Yusi
Luo
Huang was going to
Qingtong.
visit the Black Field's Mingzun, but he ended up offending
Chapter
the other
971
party and was kicked
The
out.
Grand Dean had said
Now
that
it
he
seemed
could
that
not
he wasn't
use
going to
his
visit
power and
Mingzun
authority in
as
the
a
Black
Soul
Field.
Institute master.
Obviously,
to
he went to
attack
thank
Luo
Qingtong
Qingtong for saving
However,
his life.
Luo
But he was kicked
Qingtong
out by the
couldn't
jealous
absolve
Mingzun
herself from the blame
of the
for
Black
Yu
Field.
Wenma's current
It was said
state.
that the Black
He
Field's
naturally had
Mingzun
enough
had
reason to
fallen
make
in
a
love
move.
with the evil doctor.
Bang.
Ghost
Luo
Eye.
Qingtong's
He didn't even
eyes
care that the
sharpened
other
when she
party
saw
was
the
a
Soul
man
Academy's
and spoiled
great
him
teacher's
wholeheartedly.
palm coming
Now,
for her.
it seemed
and
that
the
these words
oppressive
were not
aura
false.
pressing down on her
In
like
fact,
a low
it
pressure.
was even worse.
However,
Evil Dr.
before
Ghost,
she could do
I was
anything,
actually a woman.
a figure appeared
No
in front
wonder
of
the
her
Black
and
Field
raised his hand
underworld
to block the
Venerable
Soul
fell
Institute's
in
head
love
teacher's
with her.
attack.
The
It's
Silver
you
Sword
again.
Elder
The
couldn't
Soul
help
Institute's
but
head
shudder
teacher
when he
was
thought that the
furious
target of their
when he saw the
revenge was
hand
actually
grabbing his wrist.
the evil
It was
Dr.
the Sacred
Dueton,
Institute's
the
chief
Blackfield's
instructor
underworld
who
venerables
came out of
had
nowhere.
terrifying means.
The Soul
And their
Institute's head
strength was
teacher
sky high.
didn't like the other party.
They actually dared to
Last
attack
time,
evil
it was
Dr.
the other
Ghost
party
Eye.
who stopped him.
In the end, not only did he
Even if they
fail
weren't
to
trapped
teach
here
Luo
today,
Qingtong a
Mingzun Zun would definitely not let them off. Hateful. Not only was he punished by the Grand Dean, otherwise, but his daughter, no matter how much hatred he forced to kneel before, he could only swallow it down. And the others. How could he possibly make a move against? He was meddling in other people's business again. However, let go. It was too late to say anything now. Don't blame me. That Silver Sword Elder's heart, the Soul Institute's head teacher, was furious. In the end, he looked at Yi Qian, it all turned into a desperate madness. His aura fluctuated, and he was already offended this person. At this moment, the Grand Dean couldn't let her voice ring out. First, they had to capture the other party. The Grand Dean appeared on the stage right after they would kill her. He looked at the Soul Academy's definitely had a way to leave a sullen expression. Why was he meddling in Luo Qingtong's matter again? Didn't he just warn him not to lay his hands on Luo Qingtong? In an instant, it's only been a few days, the power of the Saint realm treating my words like the wind toward Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong used
Luo
some dark
Qingtong's
method
figure had
to turn
already
Yu
rushed
Wenmo
up
into
his
this
expression
state.
changed.
I can't ignore
The girl's
this
figure was
matter.
as light
It's
as a
best
butterfly.
if you don't interfere.
Her robe
Otherwise,
fluttering like
I have
wings.
reason to suspect
Her
that your
figure
protecting
rushed out
Luo
in an instant
Qingtong and wandered among the crowd.
Hearing the
of
Seoul
demonic
Institute's
beasts.
head
Rumble.
teacher's words,
Countless
the
demonic
Grand
beasts
Dean was
came
about
one
to
after
vomit
another.
blood.
Their
He was
roars
protecting
like thunder,
Luo Qingtong.
roaring.
What the
and
hell
raging.
was he doing?
The bloody
With
light
Yi
in
Qianxian
Luo
here,
Qingtong's
was there a need for him to
eyes
protect her?
flickered.
If he
Her
wasn't
figure was
afraid
like
that
moving
the idiot
clouds
Sudahang
and
would
flowing
attack
water
Luo
among the crowd
Qingtong
of demonic
and anger Yi
beasts.
Qianxian.
That was the peak.
The Empire
of the
of Qin
perfect
Sacred
body
Institute
movement.
would be in
Luo
trouble.
Qingtong's
Did he think he would be
figure
willing to
wandered
interfere?
among the demonic
It's not like
beasts.
his brain was damaged.
With the help of the crowd
Didn't
of
he
demonic
see that
beasts,
Yi Qianren's
she avoided the
murderous
attacks
aura
of the
had
silver
already
sword
reached
elder.
an
The wind
unimaginable
and
level.
thunder.
The Grand
sword in
Supreme
her
Dean
hand,
was truly
blasted out
angered to
one
death.
sword light
Seoul
after
Institute's
another.
great teacher
Luo
was
Qingtong's
simply
eyes
making
reflected
bogus
the circulation
accusations
of the aura
since
of
he
the
wasn't
silver
willing to
sword
head
elder.
teacher's head
Boom,
teachers
boom, boom.
head to the Grand
The sleeves of the
Supreme
silver
Dean
sword
thought about it
elders
and said
robe
coldly,
fluttered.
Sure,
His whole body
I
was
won't
shrouded
interfere
in this
later,
matter of
but
valiant
teachers
aura.
S's,
The power
since
of
you
heaven and
S
earth
used
around him
chains,
moved in
TS
response,
twos,
forming a complete
after
vacuum
he,
around him.
Ts,
All the attacks
being
of Luo Qingtong and the demonic beasts
the Empire
were
of
blocked.
Qin's Sacred Institute
His face
wasn't
was
going
ferocious.
to take the blame.
Evil
The Grand
Dr.
Dean's
Gui
words
Tong
had cut off
don't
Su
struggle
Dehang's
anymore.
path of using
Those
his
below the
identity
Saint
and
realm
authority
are all
to
ants.
deal with Yi Qianren.
I don't know how you kill my
If he wants to
elder,
die, but you must
he
have
could do it
borrowed the
himself.
power of Yu
Fine.
Huang.
Su Dehang
Today,
thought that the Grand
I'll let
Dean
you
had
know
no
what the
choice
real
but to
power of the
compromise.
Saint realm is.
He sneered and looked
The
at
silver
Yi
sword
Qianxian.
elder said,
"Are you going to scram
with
now?
a boom,
Or do you
the
want me to
power
open you
of
up?
heaven and earth
The Seoul Institute's
around
head
him
teacher
surged out.
didn't think
In
the
an
other
instant,
party was his
the
match.
demonic beast
As the
within
head
dozens
teacher of the
meters
Empire
Luo
of Qin's
Qingtong's
Sacred
all
Institute,
screamed miserably
Su Dehang's
and were
strength
torn to pieces
could be
by the
counted on
violent
one
power
hand.
of heaven
There
and
weren't
earth.
many people
In
who
an
could
instant,
defeat him.
Luo Qingtong's surroundings became a vacuum. The
Chapter
girl's figure was
972.
exposed from the
Who was this
crowd
man?
of demonic
Sacred
beasts.
Academy's chief
Seeing
instructor?
this,
He didn't
the
know where
elder
the
of the
Grand
Silver
Dean
Sword
found this
sect
person.
laughed.
He had never heard the
complacently.
name Yi Luo.
Evil Dr.
He
Gui
probably
Tong,
wasn't a
come over
particularly
here.
powerful expert.
As he spoke,
The only
he
reason
raised his
he was able
hand
to stop him
to
last
grab
time
was
Luo
because he had the
Qingtong.
advantage of
However,
a sneak attack.
just as his spirit
the
energy
Seoul
palm
Academy's head
was about
teacher
to
was
grab
thinking this,
Luo
but he didn't
Qingtong,
know that the Grand
Luo
Dean had already
Qingtong's
covered his
body
face.
trembled.
He
The
couldn't
young
bear to
girl's
watch
lowered head
the evils he
slowly
brought
lifted
upon
up.
himself
I
were
see
the
it.
hardest to
In a
bear.
hideous ghost
telling
face,
Black Field
Luo
to scram,
Qingtong's smile
and to open him up.
was faint
Even the
and
gods
evil.
in the heavens,
The blood-red
weren't as
light
good
in her
at
eyes
bragging as him.
surged
It
violently.
would be strange
The
if he could
surging
touch
aura
a single
of the
finger
Silver Sword
of
sect's
Yi
elder
Qianxian
was
while the
reflected
Grand
in it.
Dean was
There was a place where the
speechless.
aura
the Seoul
was
Academy's
much
head teacher
weaker
had
than
already
the other
made his
places.
moves.
Boom.
Moreover,
The
at this
aura
moment,
around him exploded.
after the other party
The
had used his
powerful
saint
and
stage
terrifying
power to kill
aura
those demonic
emanated
beasts,
from his body.
it was
one
obvious
after
that he had
another,
exposed his
almost
true
tearing
strength.
the surrounding
This
air
place was
apart.
naturally
The powerful
invisible
aura
to
that
the
spread
eyes
out
of others.
forced the surrounding
After all,
students of the Sacred
how
Academy
powerful was a Saint
step
realm
back
expert?
one
Even
after
if the
another.
strength of the
Seoul
Silver Sword
Academy's
expert
head
was
teacher,
slightly weaker,
seeing that Su Dehang
those who were
had
not
actually
at
made
the
his
same
move
level as him
Su
would
Xiao
not be able
Xiao
to tell.
and the others
But Luo
immediately
Qingtong
panicked.
was different.
Why didn't the Grand Dean stop him?
If the chief instructor
Her eye
couldn't
technique
stop him,
had completely
everyone was
identified
anxious
all
and
the
wanted to
weaknesses
charge
that
over
the
without
other
a care
party
for their
had
own
revealed
safety.
at this moment.
At this moment,
Swoosh.
bang! The
The
corners
sound
of
of
the
the
young
violent
girl's
collision
lips
was
curled
heard.
up wickedly.
Everyone watched
in the
in
next
shock
second,
as
the
the
life
Seoul
and death
Academy's
sword
head
appeared
teacher
and
flew in
Luo
front of
Qingtong's
them and
hands.
landed heavily on
Then,
the ground.
with the heart of the thousand-year
The Seoul Academy's
guiding
head
tree in
teacher
her
spat
hand,
out a mouthful
countless
of
in
blood
soul power
and
was
looked in
absorbed
shock at the
and
man who was looking at him with a
transformed
cold
into
expression.
Qingtong's body.
The Seoul Academy's
Heaven
head
conquering
teacher
was
art.
indescribably
Luo
shocked.
Qingtong's
In that
sword
instant,
slashed
the power
forward
around
fiercely.
him seemed to
In an
have
instant,
hit his
the
steel
attack
plate.
was
How is this
earth-shattering.
possible?
It cut through
How
the
could the other
sky
party
and
be
split
so
the firmament.
strong?
With
Even
a
the Grand
domineering
Dean wouldn't be able to
determination,
defeat him.
it charged
and sent him
forward
flying
violently
so
with an
easily.
indomitable
The Seoul
momentum.
Academy's head
Rumble.
teacher had already gone all out in that attack. He wanted to make an example out of Yi Qianxian.
Chapter 991, that he would
the
become
spiritual
the
energy
palm
Yi Qianming
was about
looked at
to
him
attack
coldly.
Luo
If it weren't for the
Qingtong
fact
was
that his
ruthlessly
identity couldn't
cut
be
open.
exposed.
The Silver
The
Sword
Sword
Academy's head
who was
teacher
laughing
would already
and
be
leaping into the
dead
air.
man.
Bang.
Opened his palm
He took
to
a heavy
grab
step
Luo
forward.
Qingtong.
Instantly
His face
appearing
suddenly
in front
turned
of the
cold,
Seoul
and his
Institute's
pupils
grand
constricted.
teacher, who had been
The
sent
next
flying.
second,
The
rumbling.
latter had been
His
seriously
figure was
injured by the
immediately
attack
sent
just
flying.
now.
A
Seeing
violent
this,
explosion
he was shocked
came from
and
his
struggled
body.
to get up.
However,
But before he
when
could
the
move,
smoke and
Yi
dust
Qianming's head
dissipated,
teacher's head
the Silver
teacher's head
Sword
teacher's
Elder's
head
figure
teacher.
was revealed.
His head teacher's
Although he was in an
head teacher's
extremely
head
sorry
teacher's
state,
head teacher's
he didn't
head.
suffer
Bang.
any serious
The Seoul
injuries.
Academy Grandmaster had
Ha.
just crawled up
Evil
from the
Dr.
ground.
Gui Tong.
He didn't even have time to
told
gather
you,
his energy.
you can't do
before
anything
Yi
to me.
Qianming's
A sage realm
forced him
expert
to kneel
isn't
on the
as
ground.
simple as
As
you
head's head.
He laughed loudly. Is that so?
In an instant,
the Seoul Institute's
head
teacher
screamed
smiled
lightly
and
Teat,
said,
head.
"Who told you that this
Now
move
you
of
can
mine
scram.
was a killing move?"
Teat.
As soon as
But
Luo
now he was
Qingtong's
immediately
voice fell,
slapped in the face
the wind
by
and clouds
someone
and
else.
sky suddenly
Moreover, he had been
changed.
beaten so
Rumbled
badly.
A huge
and
whirlpool
so painfully.
suddenly appeared
The
in
Seoul
everyone's
Academy's
sight.
head teacher's
Following
body
the appearance of this
trembled
whirlpool,
violently.
the
He was in
surrounding
pain
demonic
and also
beasts
humiliated.
all wailed.
Where did this guy
and
come
knelt
from?
on the ground. Even if the madness in their eyes didn't diminish,
Chapter
the dual
973.
pressure from their bloodline,
Su Dehang had
and
tried his
soul
best
forced
to
them
resist.
to kneel in fear.
But if his aura was like
Bang.
a steel plate,
When all the demonic
then Yi
beasts
Qiming's
were
aura was
prostrate,
like a steel
a
spike.
loud and
Ruthlessly
sonorous cry
and
sounded.
unstoppably.
In the next
It
second,
directly
a
crushed
huge claw
all the
suddenly
aura
stretched
around
out Su
and pressed
Dehang's body
heavily on the silver
and
sword
blasted
elder's
into his
body.
body.
The tip of
How
the
could it be
claw
so
pierced
strong?
through the silver
Who was
sword
he?
elder.
The Seoul
where
Institute's
Luo
great
Qingtong
teacher
had previously
trembled
attacked.
violently.
Boom.
At this moment,
The corpse of the
Su
silver
Jinyue,
sword sex,
who was beside
elder,
the
fell to
unconscious
ground.
Yuan Ma,
Before he died,
raised her head and
his
saw
eyes
the
were
scene.
still wide
She immediately
open.
screamed.
He didn't know what was
"Father,
going on.
what did you do
Where
to
did
my
that
father?"
huge claw come from?
Su
Such a
Jinyue couldn't
terrifying
believe
aura.
that her father,
What level of
the
demonic
Seoul
beast
Institute's
was
great
the opponent?
teacher, would
Huff.
lose to a
When the
nameless
silver sword
person.
sect elder
What
died,
Yi Luo,
Little
what
Pig's
Holy
miniature
Institute's
pig
chief
form
instructor,
appeared in the sky.
she had
and
never
dropped
heard of
to
their
the ground
names.
with a plop.
They must have
Luo
used some
Qingtong raised her
despicable
hand
method
and
to
scooped
deal with her
little
father.
pig into her bosom.
Thinking of this,
On her forehead,
Su Jinyue
the
instantly
seal
lost
of
her
the
mind
contract
and
flashed,
scolded Yi
and her
Qiming
body
loudly.
staggered for a
"How
moment.
dare you do this to my
Oh my
father?
God!
You scared
bastard.
Grandpa Pig to death."
Trash. Luckily,
that
before
silver
she could
sword
finish
elder
speaking,
was stupid.
the expression of
Little
the
Pig patted his
grand
chest
principal
with
on
his
the
little
other
pig
side
trotter.
suddenly
As it
darkened.
turned out,
Su
Luo
Jinyue
Qingtong's
shut up.
heaven-conquering
He
art
raised his hand
was only a
and was
feint.
about to seal
The
her
real
mouth.
killing move,
However,
was Little
even though he
Pig's
was fast,
true form
someone else
after
was
the seal
faster
was
than him.
lifted.
Fortunately,
Hearing
that
those
silver sword
insults
elder
about
was
Yi
injured.
Qiming,
Otherwise,
Luo
with Little
Qingtong,
Pig's sealed
who was
strength,
tightly protected by
it
the
would have been
man,
difficult
had
to
a
deal
cold
with
expression.
him.
She
Plop,
raised her hand
plop,
and curled
seeing
her
that
fingers.
the silver sword
In
elder
an
had
instant,
died
a
in
few
Luo
faintly
Qingtong's
discernible
hands.
forces,
The
silver
suddenly
sword
shot
elders who were
into
still
Su
strenuously
Jinyue's
resisting the
body. In
tide
an
of
instant,
demonic
the
beasts
aura
in the latter's
immediately
body
knelt on the
seemed to
ground
have been
and
stimulated
cried bitterly.
It constantly
begging
twisted
Luo
and crazily
Qingtong
drilled
to
out.
spare their lives.
While Su Jinyue
All right,
was scolding,
Luo Qingtong
she suddenly
looked
felt
at them
that something was
indifferently,
constantly
but her eyes
drilling
were
out of her
filled
body.
with evil.
That familiar,
As long as you can come out
itchy
from
and
under them
painful
alive,
feeling
I'll
instantly
spare your
made her
lives.
face turn pale.
No, it couldn't be those things.
Previously,
They had been
these
cured
people
by her.
said that they wanted
It
to
couldn't
have
be
a
them.
taste of their
However,
savior,
just
the
as Su
Southern Region
Jinyue was
King.
thinking about it,
Now,
she would let
suddenly
them have a
screamed.
taste. Then,
As Luo
under
Qingtong
everyone's
spoke,
horrified
she
gaze,
raised her hand.
She
Instantly,
desperately scratched
the
her
eyes
face
of those
with her
beasts that
hands.
had gone mad
Her long and
lost
sharp
their
nails
rationality
instantly
turned
scratched her
green.
face.
They
into a
panted
bloody
heavily
mess.
and looked
No,
like they were
she
aroused.
screamed shrilly as she
No.
clawed. Then, everyone gasped as they saw huge festering boils on Su Jinyue's face and body. After the abscesses appeared,
Chapter
they
992.
quickly festered.
At this time,
Soon,
they finally
from
understood
within the
that
festering
Luo
flesh,
Qingtong had
human
no
faces with
intention
hideous
of letting
and
them go.
terrifying
There were so many
expressions
demon
emerged.
beasts here,
It was
shrieking
impossible
shrilly.
for them to come out alive.
Seeing this scene,
They could only be
many
gang
people
raped
cried
to death.
out in alarm.
They had just
What was going
threatened
on? How did
Luo
Su Jinyue become
Qingtong,
like this?
And their expressions
While everyone
were
was
still
surprised,
vivid in their
Luo
minds.
Qingtong's
Now,
voice
they
rang
had to
out.
taste the bitter fruit themselves.
Only people who have done
Moreover,
too many bad things
Luo
can't cure it.
Qingtong's methods
The
were
Inchi
countless
won't
times
disperse.
more ruthless
Su
and
Jinyue,
cold than theirs.
you and your father,
No, the group
one
of
of you
people
is scheming
rolled and
and has
crawled,
done all
running
kinds of
away
bad
with
things,
snot and
while the other
tears
has no
streaming down
virtue
their
as a
faces.
teacher and
However,
doesn't deserve to
they
be a
couldn't
teacher.
even run away in
You
that
two
kind
are
of
really
situation,
from the same
let alone
origin.
now.
Luo
Before they could run
Qingtong's
far,
voice was cold.
They were caught up by
She
a
had
group
just
of
used a special
demonic
method
beasts
to trigger the
panting
hidden
heavily
Inchi
and stopped.
in Su Jinyue's body.
Mournful cries echoed in the sky.
At the same time,
At this moment,
she injected
these
all
silver
the
sword
Inchi
members
in the
must
heart
be
of the
extremely
1,000-year-old
regretful.
soul-guiding
If they
tree
knew this would be
into
the
Su
result,
Jinyue's
they wouldn't
body.
have provoked
She also
Luo
drew
Qingtong.
an drawing
But now it was all
diagram in her
too late.
body.
In
Oh
the
my God.
future,
So
Su
explosive.
Jinyue would be on the same side.
Little Pig was
as
held
these
in
ghost face
Luo
boils.
Qingtong's arms.
This was the price
He
for
stretched his neck
insulting
and looked at the
Yi
scene
Qiming.
behind him that
She
was
couldn't
not
bear to
suitable for
scold this
children.
man and
Who
clicked
was
his
Su
tongue in his
Jinyue?
heart.
How
How
dare
dare
she
she scold him? Luo Qingtong's methods are
are too terrifying. Offending
Chapter
her
974.
is indeed worse
Su
than death.
Jinwei couldn't care
These Silver
less
Sword
about
members were
Luo
probably
Qingtong's
regretting their
words
actions
now.
to death.
She screamed
if they knew
and
this would be
scratched
the
her
result,
face with
they
all
wouldn't
10
have
of her
begged
fingers.
for mercy.
With a tearing
Being
sound,
bitten to death,
she actually
and
swore
swallowed by
off
demon
a
beasts
large
was
piece
better
of
than
skin
being
from her
gang
face.
raped to death.
His crazed and
just as he was
pained
thinking,
appearance caused the
a jade
surrounding
white
crowd to
hand
shudder.
suddenly blocked
Wasn't
his
this
eyes.
ghastly facial
Dirty.
ulcer too
Luo
scary?
Qingtong said,
Su Jinwei had it all
forehead.
over her body.
A human
How many
and a
shameful
pig
things
walked out
had
of
she
the
done?
mountain range.
Everyone
Before
looked
they
at
walked
Su
far,
Jinwei,
Luo
strangely
Qingtong's brows
distanced
suddenly
himself from
furrowed.
her. She
stood
stopped
Hang
and
pounced
looked
on
ahead.
her.
A group of
are
people
seeing his
appeared in her
daughter
line
in
of
this
sight.
state. Su Deheng's eyes were filled with hatred and
looked at the group of
resentment.
people in front of her.
His student was
The
crippled.
man that was surrounded
His daughter
in the center
became
had
like
sharp
this,
and
and his
fierce
legs were
aura.
broken. And
As
his
a
figure
teacher
was
of the
tall
Soul
and
Institute,
handsome.
he had lost
like an
all his
unsheathed
face.
sharp sword.
As
It
Su
was
Deheng
precisely Yin
thought
Wu
of
Ju.
this,
The
hatred
man's aura
surged in
was
his
much
heart,
more
and he
harmonious
almost fainted.
than when Luo
At this
Qingtong
moment,
had
a
first
voice
met him.
suddenly
He
sounded.
must have listened to
Luo
her suggestion
Qingtong
and
and
improved the
the
circulation
teacher of the Soul
of his
Institute
meridians
was just concerned
and
about
corrected
his
the
student.
drawbacks of the
Yu Wenma is the
incomplete
last
sword
student
technique
of the Soul
At this
Institute.
moment,
If he didn't
Luo
care at all,
Qingtong's pupil
he would be called
technique
cold-blooded
had not
and
been
heartless.
completely withdrawn.
He has no
Her
morals
gaze
as a
swept
teacher.
across the group of people,
Mo
and she
Chunxian
discovered
walked
that
out of
their
the crowd
auras
as he
were
spoke.
almost all
He had
of the
been watching
martial
the
spirit
development
realm.
of the situation.
Only one or two of them
coldly
were
from the
martial
crowd.
ancestors.
Now,
He
and
walked
they were
out
at the peak
and was ready
of the
to
martial
do Su
ancestor
Deheng
realm.
a favor.
As for
The
Yin
teachers
Yu
of the Saint Institute
who was
of the
surrounded in the
Empire of
middle,
Qin,
her
had
aura
never
had
taken
already
sides.
fused perfectly,
Especially
and
Su
she could
Deheng,
break through to
other
the
than his
saint
own
realm
strength.
at any time.
His wife's
These
identity
people were not
was
weak.
even more
Luo
impressive.
Qingtong
Mo
raised her
Chunxian had
eyebrows when she
always
thought
wanted
of the
to rope him in.
extraordinary news
So he
of
was
the
on good
Lanyu
terms with
family
Yu
that she had
Wenma
heard in
and
Qin
valued
Empire. The current situation undoubtedly gave him a chance. He didn't know if the
Lanyu
teacher of the Soul
family had
Institute
such
didn't do
power
anything
and
wrong,
influence
but he
because
was a
of the
little
Lanyu
too
jade.
radical. It was said that he had left home
Mo
at a young
Chunxian
age,
narrowed
taken
his
away
eyes
by a
coldly
powerful
at Yu
expert.
Qingming.
The other party's
ago.
strength shocked
He didn't
him.
return to the
But this was
Lanyu
a chief
family
instructor
until
who
he
had
became an
just
adult
entered the empire
and
of
could
Qin
practice.
Sacred Academy. Judging
He
from
didn't
the
even know
aura
where he came
of this
from.
group of people,
So he naturally
this seemed
wasn't
to come
as
from a very
valuable as
powerful
Su
place.
Deheng,
And
a
it
great
seemed that they
teacher
were
of
not
Soul Academy.
inferior to the
Moreover,
Saint Academy
this
of the
Luo
Empire of
was
Qin
obviously
in the
standing on the
slightest.
Grand Supreme
They were even
President's
much
side.
stronger
That
than the
made
latter.
him even
When
more
Luo
inferior
Qingtong
to Su Deheng
saw Yin Yu
and Mo
and
Chunxian
the
thought
others,
so.
The latter
He
and the
immediately
others also
said
noticed
coldly,
her. Who is
Chief
it?
Instructor
The group of
Yi
people
Luo
swept
and
over
the
to
Soul
her.
Institute's
Seeing
head
their
teacher
movements, are using
Luo
their
Qingtong's
personal identities
eyes
to
flashed,
solve this
and
problem.
she raised her hand
However,
to put away
the
the
Soul
Rakshasa
Institute's head teacher
ghost mask
is
on
not
her face.
only a teacher of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy, but also a prince of the Sacred Dynasty. I wonder what his chief instructor Yi Luo's
Chapter
identity
993.
Her
Mo
movements were
Qingchuan's
extremely
eyes were
fast.
And
If he
because
doesn't
she
have
came
a
out from the
noble
forest,
title,
Yin Yu
I'm
Ju
afraid
and
that
the
Chief
others
Instructor
did
Yi
not see her
Luo
appearance.
and Soul
Nor did
Academy's
they know
great
that she
teacher
was wearing
will
the
be charged
Rakshasa
with the
ghost
crime
mask.
of offending
Miss
their
Luo,
superiors.
Yin Yu
Hearing
Ju
Mo
brought people
Qingchuan's
forward,
words,
only to
everyone
find
that
that
the person
froze.
opposite
Oh
was
my God,
actually someone
the show is
familiar.
really getting
Young
more and more
Master
exciting.
Yin Yu. His
Luo
Highness King
Qingtong's
Wu's
expression
was obviously
indifferent.
standing on the side
She was not
of the Soul
surprised that
Institute's
Yin Yu
head
Ju
teacher
would recognize her.
Presumably,
He wanted to use the
old
Sacred
Master
Dynasty
Yin Yu
title
to avenge
However,
the Soul
Yin Yu
Institute's
Ju was
head
still a
teacher.
reliable person.
Everyone understood
Luo
that since the
Qingtong
Soul
did not
Institute's
care that
head
the other
teacher
party
was
knew
using
her
his
identity.
personal identity
In any
to fight.
case,
She was
a
not
loss
afraid
was
of
a
her
loss.
identity being exposed.
There was
now.
nothing to say.
The reason why she was
However,
still hiding
with
it
Mo
was just
Qingchuan's
subconscious
words,
action.
the nature of the
It was always right to
confrontation
have
just
more
now
trump
changed.
cards.
Why did she
Originally,
have to
it was
deliberately
just a
flip
fight
between
everything
two
over
people?
for others to see.
Now that it had risen
Luo
to the level of
Qingtong
status,
liked to see the
if Chief
expressions
Instructor
of those
Yi
who
Luo
looked down on her
didn't have a
when they
noble
finally
title,
realized that
he
they
would
had
be in
kicked
trouble.
an iron plate. Everyone
It
thought
could be considered
so
her bad
and
taste.
immediately looked
I didn't
at
expect
Yi
it to be
Qianming.
you.
The light in Yin Yu Ju's eyes was pleasantly surprised.
Chapter 9,
Why are you
75.
here? When he
Grandine,
said this, didn't you
as
say
if afraid that
before that
Luo
Luo
settling our
Qingtong would
grudges
misunderstand
as
He
individuals?
hurriedly said,
If that's the case,
it's very
then my
dangerous
identity
here.
and
Did
title
you come
will
alone?
naturally be
Yin
included.
Yu Ju knew that
As he
Luo
spoke,
Qingtong
he looked at
was
Yi
very
Qianming
powerful
with resentment.
when she was a
I
martial
am no
king.
longer a
She had
teacher
once
of the
killed
Holy
a martial
Academy of the
emperor
Empire of
powerhouse
Qin,
of the Tianyu
but a
imperial
prince of the
family.
Holy Dynasty
However,
of the
the latter
Empire
was
of
injured
Qin.
at that time.
I would like to see
Moreover,
what title
this
chief
was the
instructor
depths of the mountain
Yi
range
Luo
near the main
has with his
city of the
strength.
Blackfield.
According
Demonic
to Su Deheng's
beasts were
thoughts,
everywhere.
he had never
and their
heard of Yi
strength
Luo's
was
name.
tyrannical. If the other
Powerhouses
party was not
below
a newly
the
advanced
martial
expert
emperor
who had
realm
surpassed
did
the
not
realm,
dare to enter
then
at
he
all.
must be someone
Only
who
powerhouses
lived in
above
seclusion.
the martial
Under
emperor
such
realm
circumstances,
dare to enter together.
how could the other party
Yin Yu
have a
Ju
title
also
of nobility
glanced around
of the Holy
and found that there was
Dynasty?
no one
At that
secretly
time,
following
he could use
and
the other
protecting
party's
Luo
offense
Qingtong.
to force
That
the
was why
other
she
party
asked this
to
question.
apologize to him.
Didn't they say that
If
the
the other party
Blackfield's
refused,
Zun was in love.
The law
with
enforcement
Luo
team of the
Qingtong?
Holy Dynasty
Why didn't they send
would
someone to
naturally
guard her?
wait for him.
It seemed that the
Thinking of
previous
this,
rumors,
Sudahang
as her
seemed to have found a
grandfather
way
said,
to regain
were
his
false.
face.
The
For
way he
some
looked
reason,
at Yi
when she
Qianming
thought of
suddenly
this,
became arrogant.
Yin Yuju's heart
He was very satisfied with
unconsciously
Immo
surged with
Chinchuan's
traces of
goodwill
joy.
this time.
And
Since the other
Luo
party helped him
Qingtong
like
responded
this,
in a low voice
he would naturally
and did not
support
say
him
anything
in
else.
the future.
At this
As for
moment,
Ma Chenyi,
a
who
girl in
stood
a pink
on
robe
Luo
beside
Qingtong's side,
Yin Yuju
he should be
suddenly
prepared
said,
to step down.
"Senior brother,
Anyway,
you know her?"
As the crown prince, Song Yin stared enviously at the young lady. His strength had been stagnant for a long time, beautiful that and there was no movement for a few years. Especially since the other party seemed to be compared to the martial king's strength that was constantly even more jealous. There was no comparison. Thinking back to the last time, Su Deheng did not want to get involved in the fight. She kept mentioning a miss, but now he had no choice. It couldn't be this person in front of her. Today's matter, at the thought of the Grand Dean, Song Yin looked at Luo Qingtong would not let it go. Displeasure. Chief Instructor, you're just a martial emperor. Why are you alone in the depths of this mountain range? Let us see your elegance. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. He must be lying. Su Deheng's voice was cold and gloomy as he pressed on. Hearing she was very disdainful. The Grand Supreme Dean other party's didn't know what to say. The other party must have come with his companions. Had been refreshing the upper limit of his cognition. Not telling the truth. Every time he thought that the other party had done something big, the other party would thought of the actual action that had erupted in the mountains earlier. Not enough. Just a moment ago, we can commit an extremely huge comparing status with Blackfield, everything suddenly erupted. Even the sage emperor, even though they were not weak, they could only temporarily avoid the brunt of the attack. Who do you think he was? They were all he was just a prince with a different surname, some kind of treasure, first-class noble, causing the demonic beast in the mountain range to become the Grand Supreme Dean covered his face from the looks of it, and perhaps it was true. His head, and that treasure had been obtained by. He wanted to save some face for Su Deheng. As Song Yin thought of this, he was a teacher of the same academy, certain, wasn't he? You're hiding something. The other party didn't give him a chance at all. She thought about how she had just stepped forward to speak, but before she could open her mouth, she was blocked by the other party. The corner of the Grand Supreme, Chapter 994. Twitched. Why? He really couldn't be blamed. Are you afraid that we'll covet your? He tried his best. As she spoke, how could they talk if their IQ was differently? There was nothing he could do. But you really don't. The Grand Supreme Dean was complaining in his heart. Yi Qinming's gaze was focused on Su Deheng's title. It was not something that the other party to an ordinary beast tie. No, they had stayed in the safe zone for a long time level until just now, the Saint Emperors of the Force started to retreat. What they then followed the tracks. Could it be that the position of if there really was a treasure given to him, it would be a waste if the other party was willing to give it to him. They might as well give it to him. As for her, however, on account of senior brother, although he didn't have a title, they would just give her some money. Yi Qinming turned his hand off and took out a token. Anyway, for someone of her strength to be able to get some resources from their own sect, Su Deheng would probably go sneer when he heard that Yi Qinxian Song Yin thought and said proudly, "How about this? What did you get? Chapter 9, show it to us. If this is the supreme, we'll give you a suitable sacred token, so that you won't get into trouble because of your shock." And his face was very indescribably distorted. It was as if her snatching Luo Qingtong's face also changed when he heard the words he blurted out. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong, how could this be? Not get only the transcendent. Even if she got it, she would not show it to them. Luo Qingtong's gaze was cold. Every token was about to speak represented the power and status of a junior sister. Yin, what do you mean? What kind of existence was a transcendent? Whatever she got, that was her business. It was an existence that it has nothing to do with entire sacred dynasty. As he spoke, like he apologized to Luo Qingtong. How could he have such a token? I'm sorry. The two's faces Junior sister is rude, and the people around them looked finish his sentence. Yi Qinming, Song Yin, who was standing on the other side of the room, token, had those who could enter the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin. Senior brother Yin, what do you mean, people? Because of they not know what a supreme Song Yin had been spoiled rotten under such circumstances. This time when she went out, looked at Yi, all the senior and junior brothers gave originally. Everyone was very envious of Luo without warning. She could not hold back the anger to become Yi Qinxian's disciple. She did not like Luo for their strength to increase, glaring so fiercely at Luo especially Luo Qingtong. Song Yin said, who rose from the martial. I didn't say I was going to snatch her things. Emperor realm. I just wanted her to show it to us. Not only was the chief instructor strong, can I do that? He was also very good. She raised her head, teaching people. As soon as these self-righteous words, the chief instructor even had his expression sacred token turned completely. Oh my God. Taking other people's things the supreme sacred token, and she still asked them if it was okay. Their feet. He didn't know how to face Luo Qingtong. If they had known earlier, they would have risked everything. If he had known that the end result, he would not have brought. Even if they had to be shameless, they would have done it. At this moment, Su Deheng, a crisp, beautiful voice, suddenly rang out. But Yuan, look what I just saw. Others relaxed. How shameless, huh? Some people are so self-righteous. The guy who wished for the world to snatch other chaos. Laughed how loudly. Shameless. He looked at Big Su Deheng, how old are you? Qinchuan's ugly faces and mocked. I have some rubbish here. Great teacher of the Seoul Institute. I can give it to you for free. Continue your performance. How about our chief instructor's charity? As she spoke, with you? A petite figure suddenly appeared in front different of surname. Was it that more powerful? Luo Qingtong looked at the little lowly who appeared in front of everyone. Yuan, whose
raised her
voice
eyebrows.
was extremely loud.
She recognized that
In
the one who
particular,
appeared here
he had
was
purposely
Yu Xingqi.
added a little bit of power into it. In an instant, his voice spread throughout the entire arena like a lion's roar. If it weren't for the special materials
Chapter
used in
995,
Sky Hall's training ground,
Luo
and
Qingtong
the
looked at
isolation
Song
of
Yan's
formation,
ashen face
the Sky Hall's
and raised
arena
her eyebrows.
would have been destroyed.
She crossed her
His
arms
words could
and
probably
watched the show.
spread to almost
Ha
half
ha.
of the Sky
Yu
Hall's
Xingqi
training
carried
ground.
the little white
Su
cat
Deheng and ran to
Luo
Luo
Qingtong's
Qingtong
looked
side.
extremely embarrassed.
He made a face at Song Yan,
especially
and said,
Mo
"What?
Chunxian.
Are you angry?"
Who had deliberately
You're shameless
brought up the difference
and won't
between
let
their
others say it.
identities in order
If
to
you
help
have the
Su
ability,
Deheng
go to the
her
Southern
anger
Mountain Range
so that he could
and
better
settle
win
the
her
score
over.
with me. In the end,
I'm called
not
Yu
only
Xingqi.
did he not
My
vent his
brother
anger,
is called Yu
he even
Xingqi.
helped someone else steal
You're welcome
the
to
limelight.
find trouble.
His side had
Yu
lost all
Xingqi
face.
didn't
He was even
hesitate to sell
beaten
out his
swollen.
brother. He didn't know if Si Huang
His face
would be
alternated
alternated
between
between
green and
every
white.
time this girl
And
caused
he almost
trouble
couldn't
outside.
control his
She would
expression.
throw it to him to
There was
wipe
no
her
need to
ass.
mention Su Deheng.
But in Yu Xingqi's
Just now,
opinion,
when
wasn't
Yi
his brother
Qianxian
used to be
said that
sold
he didn't
out?
have a noble
That's right.
title.
He was
His
also used
expression
to supporter.
was so arrogant.
Seeing Song
He almost
Yan's
laughed
expression
out loud.
change. In the
Yu
end, he was
Xingqi
slapped
nodded
in
in
the
satisfaction.
face.
His
The title
proud,
of stupid
arrogant,
brother
was
and
still
shocked
very
expression was
youthful.
fixed on his face.
Yu
It was as
Xingqi's
strange
introduction
as it could be.
made Song
The chief
Yan's
instructor has the
expression very
supreme
ugly.
sacred
She
token.
originally wanted
so
to
he
teach
naturally
Yu
wouldn't offend
Xingqi
his
a lesson.
superiors.
But now that the
Sima
latter
Ju's
had
voice
revealed his
rang
identity,
out at this moment.
it wasn't good
However,
for her to
the
do
person who
anything.
fought with the chief
After
instructor
all,
is
although her
offending
sect
his superiors.
didn't fear Si Huang, the latter was still the king of the Southern Mountain Range.
Chapter 9.
If she went against him because of such
Su
a
Deheng's
small
expression
matter,
turned
she would
even
definitely
uglier.
be scolded
Beside
by
him,
her elders.
Mo
when she returned.
Chunxian couldn't
Thinking of
maintain
this,
his composure.
Song Yan's heart
After
became
all,
even more
he was the
sullen.
one who
She
suggested
fiercely
using
looked
his
at
title
Luo
to
Qingtong
suppress others.
and Yu Xingqi.
Now he was
Then,
slapped in the face.
she looked at
instead.
Yin Ju,
He didn't
who
even
was
have a
looking at her
reason
angrily.
to find an excuse.
She immediately stomped
Moreover,
her feet,
even
and
if they wanted to
angrily
find an
turned to
excuse,
leave.
they had to see
Junior
if
sister,
Yi Qianxian
the group
was
of people
willing
behind
or
Yin
not.
Ju quickly
Obviously,
chased after her.
Yuan
but
Hu
he
and
didn't
the
rest.
rest weren't
Miss
going to let them
Luo,
off.
I'm sorry
Just
for
as he
just
was
now.
thinking this,
Yin
on the
Ju
other
looked
side,
at
Yuan
Luo
Hu,
Qingtong
Sima
with an
Ju,
apologetic
and Ling
expression.
Yu had already
He didn't
started
expect
talking
things to
louder.
turn out like this.
Oh, so
If
that
he knew
means
that
that the
Song
person who
Yan
offended
would have
his superior
such an attitude
is
towards
actually the
Luo
Seoul
Qingtong,
Institute's
he would have
great
led her
teacher.
away from the beginning.
Then what should we do?
He
if
definitely
offends
wouldn't
his
let
superior?
Luo Qingtong
Kowtow
suffer
and apologize.
such humiliation.
Sigh.
My
The
junior
Seoul
sister
Institute's
is
great
used to being
teacher was
willful.
beaten up
I will
so
definitely
badly,
teach her a lesson
and he's
later.
still kneeling.
He said to Luo
Let's not force him
Qingtong,
to do anything.
"Do you need me to send you out?
Just let him kowtow.
No need, it's fine."
And apologize.
Luo Qingtong
as soon
nodded
as he
at
said
him
that
and smiled
Su Deheng
faintly.
couldn't hold
If it wasn't
back
for
the
Yin
sweet
Ju
taste in his throat.
Song Yan
and
spat
definitely
out
wouldn't
a
have left
mouthful of
so
blood.
easily.
He was already
Luo
injured from the
Qingtong
fight
was
with
never
Yi
a person who would
Qianxian
let others
and was
step
holding
on
on
his
his
last breath
and
behave atrociously.
without
Not only did
fighting
he
back.
fail to vent his
If
anger,
Song Yan thought
he
that she was a
lost even more
pushover,
face.
she was
Thinking
gravely
of this,
mistaken.
Su
He could
Deheng
say
was
that she
so
was vengeful
angry that he
or
started
not
trembling.
magnanimous enough.
In the next second,
But
his
Luo
eyes rolled
Qingtong
back
would not
and he
let herself
fainted.
suffer.
Seoul
Not to mention
Institute's
that Song
great
Yan
teacher
was the one
seeing
who was looking
Su
for trouble.
Deheng faint.
Luo Qingtong
Didn't say
Chunxian
too much to
naturally
Yin
couldn't
Ju
stay
and
bid
in
him
the arena
farewell
any longer.
Yin Ju had
He glanced
no
coldly
choice.
at Luo
She originally
Qingtong
wanted to
and the
invite
rest
Luo
and
said
Qingtong
coldly
to travel with him.
Good.
But now
You
that
guys are
something
very
like this
good.
had happened, he didn't
Both
dare to
sides were in
target
an
Yi
awkward
Qianxian.
situation.
So he vented all his anger on Luo Qingtong, and
She
the
could only
rest.
nod and
I
tell
hope you guys
Luo
can still
Qingtong
laugh
to be
in the
more
future.
careful.
As he
Fortunately,
spoke, he waved
Luo
his sleeves
Qingtong had Yu
and
Xingqi
said to the
by her
people
side.
beside him. Yin Yu
Bring
Ju
the
glanced
Seoul
at Yu
Institute's
Xingqi.
great teacher
She felt that with
and
the
the rest.
sister of the
We're
Southern
leaving.
Mountain Range King,
A group of
the
people
two of
from the
them
Dragon
should
Group
have
heard
no
the order
problem
and
leaving
hurriedly
this
helped the
mountain
Seoul
range.
Institute's
What she
great
didn't know
teacher
was that Luo
Yuan
Qingtong
Ma
alone
and Su
was
Jingwei
enough to cross
the
this
group of
mountain
people
range
left
at
with
will.
their tails
There were no
between their
demonic
legs,
beasts that could stop
especially
her.
Mo
Both sides
Chunxian.
bid farewell.
He was in high
and left.
spirits when he came
After
here,
Yin Ju left,
thinking that
Yu
Luo
Xingqi's eyes
Qingtong
turned.
was bound to
She
lose.
turned around and threw
even
herself
planned to
at
make her
Luo
his slave
Qingtong with
in
a
the
smile.
end. Not only did
Sister-in-law,
Luo
her
Qingtong
smile was
win,
sweet. She
and
even
she looked
crippled Yuan Ma.
indescribably cute.
But that wasn't all. The Seoul Institute's Grand Master had personally stepped in, and he didn't even
care about his reputation. Yet, he still hadn't managed to gain any
I'm not your
advantage.
sister-in-law.
Where did that Yi
Luo
Luo
Qingtong
raise
there
her
be a
hand
supreme
to block
saint
the person
Mo
in front
Chan
of her?
Xian,
Don't
and
call
the
me that
others
in the
left
future,
angrily.
or I
On
won't
the
be
other
polite
side,
to you.
Su
Luo
Xiaoxiao
Qingtong's
and the
voice
others
was
were
faint,
overjoyed.
but
The members of the
threat
heavenly
and
evil
coldness
group
in it
cheered,
couldn't be ignored.
laughing.
Yi
and
Qianxian
jumping.
was jealous
Those who
because
had just
Yu
joined
Si Huang's
felt
matter
indescribably
last time.
lucky.
If Yu Xingqi's
Fortunately,
words were heard
they made
by
the
him,
right bet
and
this
he
time.
investigated,
Luo Qingtong
that scene was
actually
too
won
beautiful
against
Yuan Ma.
Luo
and in
Qingtong
such a
didn't dare
beautiful
to think about
manner.
it.
Most
Forcefully
importantly,
slapping the
she didn't want Yi
dragon group in the face
Qianxian
once
to be
again.
unhappy.
This time,
They really didn't
Yu
misjudge
Xingqi
him.
blinked her eyes, puzzled. Look at how handsome
As
my
the group
brother is.
cheered, the
Okay,
members of the Gui
he's
Yuan
beautiful,
group also
but he's
came
not
up to
effeminate.
congratulate. And
Watching
see,
you looked
he's
at
also the king of the Southern
Luo
Territory.
Qingtong
He has
and
strength.
Congratulations on
winning the bet.
He has power.
You have nothing to do
How
with you
good
one
is
mile
that?
anymore.
Yu Xingqi
The young man's
followed
temperament was
behind
elegant
Luo
and steady.
Qingtong.
When he
Listening to
smiled
benefits
and
of her brother.
congratulated her,
She had the
he gave off the
attitude
feeling
of
of
a senior
jade-like
seller.
The only thing you didn't
Seeing
do
the
was to
sincere
sell
congratulation
congratulation
in
in
his
his eyes.
Not
Luo
interested.
Qingtong
Luo
smiled
Qingtong's
faintly.
expression was
Thank you,
indifferent.
Your Highness.
As she continued
As she
to walk
spoke,
forward,
she
you
suddenly
really
felt
don't
a
want to
pair
think
of
about
eyes
it.
staring at
Yu
her.
Xingqi caught
Luo
up with her
Qingtong
pace,
turned her head,
unwilling
and saw
to give
Yi
up.
Qianqian's
My brother's
disguised
really good.
face looking
She nodded
at
her head
with a dark
You won't
expression.
lose anything if you marry him.
Marry.
Luo Qingtong raised her
Chapter
eyebrows
978
and looked at the cute little lowly
Seeing her
beside
turn her head,
This little
Yi
girl's words were
Qianqian
really
snorted
shocking.
coldly.
She tried
Flicked his
so
sleeves
hard to promote
and
her
disappeared
brother,
in front of the crowd
just to let her
with a
marry
cold
him.
face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yu
The
Xingqi
crowd
nodded her
rushed
head
in
with
front
a
of him.
serious face.
Some thanked
Wait
him,
until you marry
some
him.
admired him.
Then I can go back
Some were
and be the
stunned.
sect master.
Grand Principal,
She said
what's
with
wrong
a
with the
smiling
chief
face
instructor?
looking at Luo
The group of people
Qingtong.
looked at the Grand
You
Supreme
see, isn't this
Headmaster
very good?
beside them.
You'll
in
get a
confusion
peerless
and
beauty
asked,
as your husband.
Ahem.
I'll
The
get
Grand
the imperial
Principal
sect
covered his mouth
and become the
and
queen of the
coughed
Southern
softly.
Territory. How
He's
good is
probably
that?
tired.
Your brother
In fact,
can't be
tired?
considered a
He's just
peerless
jealous.
beauty. Okay?
If it was,
who would have
then it
thought
should
that
be
the
Yi
dignified
Qianqian.
Ming Zun in the
But
Blackfield
this
was
is the
such a
reason why
jealous
you're
person.
promoting your brother.
No
me?
wonder he had to
Yes,
conceal his
other people
identity
can't suppress
and
him.
stay by the
Yu
side of
Xingqi's
that
eyes
evil
turned
Dr.
with a
Child.
sly face.
However, the
when she
Grand
heard that
Principal
Yu Si
deeply
Huang liked the
suspected
evil
that
Dr.
Luo
Guitong,
Qingtong
she
hurriedly
hurriedly
left
left
a
a
letter
letter
and left.
He looked at the girl
It was
in the
all for the
crowd
sake of helping
opposite
that
him.
stupid
Luo
brother of his
Qingtong
win
was
over
looking
the
at the
beauty.
place where Yi
However,
Qianqian had left.
She looked at Luo
She couldn't
Qingtong
stop smiling.
and sighed heavily.
She was both evil
AI
and cunning.
This person's
the Grand
people,
Principal's lips
but she didn't want to
twitched.
accept her
Oh my
stupid
God.
brother.
These two people,
her dream of
he
being
hoped
the
that they would
queen
take it
was
easy
broken and not
Luo
ruin
Qingtong
the
was
Holy
amused by
Academy
Yu
of the
Xingqi's
Empire of
behavior.
Qin.
Yu
He
Si
wasn't
Huang's
ready to
little
retire
sister
yet.
is really
Just as the Grand
interesting.
Principal was on
She actually
tenterhooks.
found her sister-in-law
Luo Qingtong
to
had
marry
already
her brother
said
off.
something to
Luo
Su Xiao
Qingtong
and
suddenly
others.
sympathized
She
with
lifted
Yu
her
Si
body
Huang.
and
What should she
rushed
do?
in the direction
She smiled
where Yi
and said
Qianqian
to
had
Yu
left.
Xingqi,
The man's figure
"What do you
had
sign
long
for?"
disappeared.
Of
Luo
you.
Qingtong's suppressed her
turned.
brother's imperial
She suddenly turned
sect
around
and become
left
the
the
queen
Holy
of the
Academy
Academy
of
of the Empire of
She
Qin.
teased Yu
The girl's
Xingqi.
figure flitted
I also
through the
want
woods.
to.
But isn't
Soon,
that too
Luo
troublesome?
Qingtong's figure
I'm lazy.
appeared under the
Wouldn't it be
waterfall,
better if
where
I
Yi
directly
Qianqian
become the
had brought them for
sect master?
training?
The water around them had been cut off. Only the water in the middle
Unfortunately,
was left.
it
I
rushed
can't down
beat
from
my
the cliff at the
Yu
top of the
Xingqi
mountain.
said.
Sure enough, she suddenly
That man
tilted her
had
head and
created this
smiled at
waterfall.
Luo Qingtong.
Every day,
Then if you don't
he
want
would
to be my
come here
sister-in-law,
to
can
manually
you be my
draw
sister?
the water from
She
the
said,
lake to the
then
top
jumped
of the
up and
mountain.
said, Luo
Then it's
Qingtong,
settled.
like the
You could
feeling
be my
that Yi
sister.
Qianqian was doing
This
this
way.
for her. If
Her
you
lips
see her
curled up
bullied her
slightly.
again,
Wouldn't
she
she
have
have
a
a
chance
chance
to
to
bully
bully
in
in
front
back?
of her? Yu
Waves of
Xingqi
warmth
giggled as he
surged
thought.
in her heart.
She will have a backer in the future with a serious expression. She took out the little pig from her sleeve and placed it on the boulder in front
really
of her.
liked her.
She sat
Although she followed her to
across
find a
from it and
bride
said,
for Yu Si Huang.
Don't you think the
But
chief
since Luo
instructor is a
Qingtong
good
didn't want to be
person?
your brother's bride,
Little
being
Pig
her sister
was still
is
in a
also
daze
not
when he was
bad.
released. What was this woman doing? It looked at Luo Qingtong inexplicably, not knowing why she had brought it to this place. Chapter
If the engagement was
997
successfully
Luo
broken,
Qingtong
shouldn't this woman
raises
be
her
with that
eyebrows
man?
and
Why
looks
did
at
he
her.
bring it to
I thought
such
you
a
should be more
desolate
worried
place?
about whether
Little
or not
Pig
I would
looked
kill
around
you
to
and was
hide
about
my
to
identity
ask Luo
when Luo
Qingtong
Qingtong
what was wrong with
speaks.
her. The smile
Suddenly,
in Yu Xingqi's
all the hair on its body
eyes
stood up.
suddenly
Oh my God.
stiffens. Little
Her
Pig
eyes
glared
flashed
at
with
the
a trace
person
of
behind
panic.
Luo
And then she
Qingtong.
tries her best to
There,
calm down.
Yi Qianqian's
You
figure
won't, right?
appeared. He was surrounded
I have
by
my
an
brother's
obvious
senses on
chill
me.
as he
It's not
coldly
wise
looked
for
at the
you
little
to
pig.
go against him.
Yu Xingqi's
However,
heart is indeed a
Luo
little scared.
Qingtong didn't
Although
seem
she
to
is
feel
cunning,
anything
black-bellied,
and continued to
and
speak.
somewhat evil.
Look,
but she
this
knows who
huge
to
waterfall
provoke
was
and
specially
who not to
made by
provoke.
the chief instructor
Luo
to help
Qingtong
us
definitely
improve our
belongs to the
strength.
group of people who
Isn't the
cannot be
chief
provoked.
instructor
These
very
people will
considerate?
absolutely do
Yi
whatever they
Qianqian felt
say,
a chill
regardless
run down
of
his
the
spine
consequences.
as he listened.
Before she knew
This
that
waterfall
Luo
was
Qingtong
indeed
is the evil
specially
Dr.
made
Ghost
by
Eye
him for this
she
woman.
only felt that
However,
girl who rose
he didn't
from
do
a
this to
low-level
make her have a
country
good
is
impression
somewhat
of
interesting.
that. When she was in the Heavenly Evil
Yi
group,
Qianxian
although she
instantly
followed Su
felt
Xiao
as if he had been
and
poached
called her
by his
boss,
alias.
she didn't really care. But when she knew that Luo Qingtong,
Chapter
the evil Dr.
979.
There's
was
more.
completely different.
You see,
The latter
chief
is her
instructor has
idol.
helped me
Yu
several
Xingqi
times
really
in a row.
didn't expect
Even if
that
he's doing it for
Luo
the grand
Qingtong
principle's
can
sake,
win against the
isn't a
people
little
of the
too
Silver
much?
Sword.
Moreover,
After Luo
if he can raise the
Qingtong
strength
led the
of
people of the
disciples
Silver
by a
Sword
whole
away,
realm within a
she
month,
thought that Luo
it's definitely
Qingtong would
tailor-made
run
for
away
that.
after that.
As
But
Luo
who would have
Qingtong
thought that
spoke,
she would actually
she could
kill
feel
them
that the
all?
man
My
behind her
God.
could no
Before
longer
Yu
hold his breath.
Xingqi came,
She saw
back
her
the
laughter
fate of the
and
people
asked
of
the
the
little pig in
Silver
front of
Sword.
her with a
That
serious
Silver Sword
expression.
elder is a Saint
Say,
Realm expert,
Chief
but
instructor
he also
is so
died.
nice to me.
Although he was
Is it
injured
because
before, he likes me.
Qingtong
Actually,
unknown
Yi
methods to
Qianxian
attract
couldn't
the
hold
beast
back
tide.
any longer.
But that is not the
after
reason why
Luo
Qingtong can kill a
Luo
Saint Realm expert.
Qing
In
Tong.
short,
He
Luo
gritted his teeth
Qingtong
and
is
pounced
very,
on the girl.
very powerful.
As for
and her
Luo
methods
Qingtong,
are very
she had already
ruthless.
dodged to the
Yu
side the
Shengqi
moment she
is
finished
really
speaking
afraid that she will
and
make a
dodged
move
Yi
against
Qianren's
her.
pouncing
Thinking
figure.
of this, she suddenly
She looked at
becomes
the man's
very
dark
uneasy
and jealous
and
face
says
and
to
thought,
Luo Qingtong,
"Why is this man so
really
cute?
It's not
He's
worth
actually
it for
jealous
you
of
to make a
himself.
move against me.
And he's
I
so
promise I won't tell my
jealous.
brother about you.
Ha
Okay?"
ha.
Luo
Seeing her like
Qingtong
this,
couldn't hold it in
Luo
anymore
Qingtong
and
had a
laughed.
faint smile on
The
her
girl's
face.
bell-like voice
She originally only
resounded
wanted
through
to
the
scare Yu
waterfall
Shengqi,
and mixed with the
she
sound
generally
of
wouldn't
flowing
make a
water.
move on
It
people
was
who didn't
indescribably
threaten her.
pleasant to
Moreover,
listen to.
Yu Sihuan
Sly.
was not her
Yi
enemy.
Qianxian listened
Luo
to the girl's
Qingtong
laughter,
didn't care
and
whether
looked
the
at her
other party
smiling face.
knew her identity.
She was
or
indescribably
not.
beautiful
However,
and sly.
it would be best
How
if
could
there
he
was
not
less
know
trouble.
that he had fallen
After all,
into this woman's
Yi
trap again?
Qianxian was
She
still
was
jealous.
obviously saying those
Thinking of
words to
this,
him on purpose.
she said with a calm expression,
As Yi Qianren thought
"All
of
right,
this, remember
she
what
couldn't
he
help
said.
but feel
Let's
a
go.
knot of anger
Good.
in her heart.
Yu Shengqi
She grabbed the young girl's
immediately
waist
became happy
and pulled
Oh
her
my
into
God,
her
I've
embrace.
escaped death.
Luo
She
Qingtong
patted her chest
held back her
and
laughter
hurriedly followed
and let him pull her into his
Qingtong.
embrace. Seeing her
She
like
raised her
this,
arms and
Luo
wrapped them
Qingtong's
around the man's
lips
neck.
suddenly curled
She
up.
had a cheeky
She suddenly
and one
thought
look
of
on her
little
face.
Lucky. The
She
latter
raised
was
her
about the
eyebrows
same
and
age
asked,
as Yu Shengqi.
"Lord, are you surprised?"
But he was not
Are
as
you surprised?
eccentric as Yu Shengqi. He
Ha.
was very pure
Luo
and
Qingtong
harmless.
couldn't help but laugh again. Surprise joy.
Luo
Luo
Qingtong
Qingtong
hasn't
hasn't
seen him
and said
since the
word by
last time
word.
she detoxified
Why isn't it
him.
a surprise?
She heard that the
He was about to
Longway
die of
aristocratic family
surprise.
originally
Couldn't this
wanted
woman
to send
be
him
a little
to the
more
Tanyu Branch
well-behaved?
Academy.
He almost
But for
thought
some
that she had
reason,
fallen in love
it didn't
with his
happen.
alias.
It is said
Yi
that he
Luo,
was taken away by
and he
someone
almost exploded
because it
in
was
anger.
related to the Longway
However,
aristocratic
even
family's
so,
family matters.
Yi Qianxian
Luo
was still very
Qingtong
restrained
didn't
when he
ask
grabbed
much.
Luo
With the
Qingtong.
Longway clan's
He did not
old
want to
man
hurt her at all.
and Yin Yuju's love
Instead,
for him.
he became
The place where
gentler
the little
when the
boy
young
when should
girl
be
threw
beneficial
herself
to him.
into his arms.
Unfortunately,
He was
when she
afraid
saw
that
Yin
he would
Yuju
accidentally
just
pinch the little
she
woman in his
originally
arms.
wanted to ask,
Although he
but
knew
because
that
of his
Luo
junior sister,
Qingtong
she
wasn't that
forgot.
fragile.
Forget
He
it.
couldn't help
There will be another
pampering
chance
and protecting this woman.
Huh. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian, who was so angry that he couldn't do anything to her, and her eyes
Chapter
instantly
998.
turned into crescents.
Master,
She
after
smiled
entering the main
sweetly
city of the
as she
Black
looked at the
Field,
man's
Luo
dark face in
Qingtong
front of her.
left Yu
She held
Shengqi
back her
in the
laughter
city lord's
and
manner
raised her hand
and had
to
someone watch
smooth
over
out
him.
the wrinkles
Soon
on his
after,
brows. She went to Yin
All right,
Yang and the
don't be
others.
angry.
Seeing the young lady appear with a Rakshasa mask, Yin Yang and the others all knelt down to pay their respects. Luo Qingtong nodded her head and directly walked past them into the main hall. She asked, "What is the matter?" Yin Yang had already had the others withdraw. Hearing this, she immediately replied, "It's about what Master wanted us to pay attention to. There's news regarding the Heavenly Divine Doctor." "Oh." Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly brightened. "You've investigated her identity?" "No." Yin Yang shook her head. "However, we have investigated. That Heavenly Divine Doctor should be someone from Great Yang. Furthermore, she is definitely related to Great Yang's imperial family." As she spoke, she narrated the information that she and the others had investigated. That Heavenly Divine Doctor places great importance on the concealment of her identity. Furthermore, she is extremely cautious. She almost did not leave behind any information or traces that can be investigated. However, from the people that she mobilized, we can see that she should be related to Great Yang's imperial family. Speaking of which, this was all due to Luo Qingtong's efforts. Last time, she had fiercely insulted Feng Wan in Great Chu. The latter had almost suffered a great loss. She had abandoned her personal maidservant and had even been pursued by the experts of the Black Field. If it were not for the wisp of smoke in her body, she would have been caught on the spot and exposed. However, it was also because of this that she had hastily mobilized many people, revealing the strength that only Great Yang's imperial family could mobilize. This allowed Yin Yang and the people of the Black Field to find some clues, especially Yin Yang, who had come into contact with people of all trades. She was also a person who knew how to act and speak well. It was very easy for her to analyze what she wanted from the words of others. Therefore, she immediately contacted Luo Qingtong after finding out some clues about the Heavenly Doctor's identity. As Luo Qingtong valued Luo Qingtong's identity very much, she didn't explain in the message. Instead, she asked Luo Qingtong to come to the Black Field's main city and personally explain it to Luo Qingtong. Great Yang?
Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. It was actually someone from Great Yong? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly. If she remembered correctly, Feng Yuan and the Seventh Lord had come to the Chu sacred capital after the Heavenly Doctor's failure at the Great Chu sacred dynasty. They were openly plotting for the throne of the Great Chu. Could the other party be that Heavenly Doctor Divine Hand? Luo Qingtong recalled the poison technique she had used against Feng Yuan when she was investigating his identity. She suddenly smiled with great interest. Interesting. Even if that Heavenly Doctor wasn't Feng Yuan, he shouldn't be unrelated to Feng Yuan. So this time, Feng Yuan was actually behind the Martial King? The latter's appetite was really big. On one hand, he coveted Yi Qianxian and wanted to replace her. On the other hand, he was stirring up trouble in Great Chu in the Empire of Qin. Great Yong, Great Chu, the Empire of Qin. Only Great Qi was missing. Did the other party want to unify the four dynasties? However, speaking of which, if they weren't enemies, Luo Qingtong would rather admire Feng Yuan. He was ambitious, powerful, and most importantly, ruthless. It was a pity that he had met her. Chapter 999. If Feng Yuan was really related to the Divine Doctor, and the art of seizing fate in King Wu's body was caused by the latter, then Luo Qingtong couldn't help but suspect that there was something fishy about Feng Yuan's identity as the first princess and the first genius of Great Yong. She would know it by looking at the situation of the descendants of the Great Yong royal family. Luo Qingtong thought so and suddenly smiled. She gave the list of medicinal materials she brought to Yin Yang and asked them to collect the materials according to the contents. There were not many kinds of medicinal materials in it, only 2 or 3 kinds, but they were not easy to collect. Luo Qingtong could let Ma Chunyi look for them, but it was just a few medicinal materials which were not particularly precious. If he couldn't collect them after a long time, it would be troublesome. Therefore, when she came to the Black Field this time, she asked Yin Yang and others to do it. In this way, solving the problem of Ma Chunyi's art of seizing fate could be put on the agenda as soon as possible. After all, Luo Qingtong did not intend to stay in the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin for a long time. She had asked around and found out that the grand event that was going to happen soon was related to the hidden world. Luo Qingtong would inevitably win the first place in the conference and enter the hidden world to find the whereabouts of her parents. Therefore, the matter of Ma Chunyi could only be solved sooner rather than later. What's more, it was better to get rid of people like King Wu as soon as possible, so as not to leave him to annoy her. Thinking that King Wu once wanted to take her as a female slave, Luo Qingtong felt a burst of disgust. Not to mention that the divine doctor behind King Wu was related to Feng Yuan. Then, she couldn't let him go. Luo Qingtong didn't stay in the Black Field for long. After Yin Yang collected those medicinal materials, she left the Black Field and returned to the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. Yu Xingqi naturally followed her. When the two rushed back to the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin in the encampment of the Dragon Regiment in the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin, Mo Chunxian looked coldly at his subordinates in front of him. Are you saying that Yuan Mo and Su Jinhua can't be cured? He narrowed his eyes. He had guessed that Yuan Ma might not be able to cure him. The cold air that erupted from the latter's body was too strong. Yuan Ma's soul imprint spirit body was as strong as the backlash from the cold qi was. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that if this cold qi was not removed, he would be crippled for the rest of his life. There is no such thing as a soul imprint, spirit body, or future powerhouse. He might not even be able to use half of his strength, and every day he lived a life worse than death. At this moment, the people of the Empire of Qin finally understood why Yuan Ma was so determined to not break off the engagement with Luo Qingtong. As soon as he lost the bet with Luo Qingtong, the cold qi in his body erupted. No one believed that this matter had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. However, no one knew how Luo Qingtong did it. He could only guess that it had something to do with their engagement tokens. Later, Someone revealed that Yu Wanma was born with a cold disease and almost couldn't survive, let alone be able to cultivate. The reason why he was able to become a genius powerhouse in these years was entirely because of his engagement with Luo Qingtong. He was afraid that the engagement token had played a big role in it. The cold qi in Yu Wanma's body was not completely removed because of the engagement token. They were afraid that there would be a cure after he married Luo Qingtong. That was why he was determined not to break off the engagement with Luo Qingtong. Everyone guessed so and suddenly despised Yu Wanma. Chapter 1000. As it turned out, the role model and genius was nothing more than a facade. The real Yu Wanma was so disgusting, and the imperial family was worse than pigs and dogs. Their entire family was ungrateful. Some people even found out that the reason why Tianyu's imperial family was annihilated by evil Dr. Ghost Eye was not because they had offended evil Dr. Ghost Eye. So evil Dr. Ghost Eye took revenge and annihilated the entire imperial family. Instead, it was because Tianyu's imperial family repeatedly attacked the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. Evil Dr. Guitong had a relationship with the Luo family, so he acted out of anger and exterminated the imperial family. Yu Wenxue and the Empress' actions were exposed one by one. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation, feeling that Tianyu's imperial family should be exterminated. Luo Qingtong could be said to be their benefactor. She saved Yu Wanma, set up an engagement with him, and made him a genius. But in the end, she was so disdainful. And because Yu Wenxue didn't like Luo Qingtong as her imperial sister-in-law, she joined forces with the Luo family's concubine daughter to attack Luo Qingtong. Her methods were so vicious that it was shameful. Tianyu's imperial family was unfair. Yu Wanma clearly knew that his family didn't like Luo Qingtong and the Luo family, but he didn't say a word for them. He even forbade them from canceling their engagement with him, almost pushing Luo Qingtong and the Luo family to their deaths. Such selfish and sinister thoughts. Although he didn't directly attack Luo Qingtong and the Luo family, he was more hateful than anyone else. Because if it wasn't for him, Luo Qingtong and the Luo family wouldn't have had to go through so much trouble. Immediately, those who thought that Luo Qingtong's methods were too vicious shut their mouths. Yu Wanma had only himself to blame for his fate. Not to mention, Luo Qingtong didn't do anything to him. She only took back the Luo family's kindness. What he was suffering now was entirely caused by the illness in his body. What did it have to do with Luo Qingtong? It was already good enough that the girl didn't kick him when he was down. Besides, because of his engagement with Luo Qingtong, Yu Wanma had enjoyed so many years of glory and glory. Now that he had been beaten back to his original state, he should be satisfied. For a moment, no one spoke up for Yu Wanma. Everyone was the same. They were all trash. As for Su Deheng's side, after making a ruckus about wanting to convict Luo Qingtong of the crime of harming a fellow disciple of the same sect, after hearing the rumors that had spread through the heavenly hall, their faces turned ugly and they ceased their ruckus. After all, even if this matter went to the ends of the earth, the elders of the Holy Institute wouldn't be able to do anything to Luo Qingtong. This wasn't Luo Qingtong's fault at all. What was there to punish? Therefore, Mo Chunxian had a premonition that Yu Wanma had been disabled. However, because he had one Su Deheng support, he didn't particularly care about Yu Wanma's disability. After all, the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin didn't lack powerhouses, and his subordinates didn't lack geniuses either. However, he couldn't figure out why Su Jinyue's illness couldn't be cured. The illness in Su Jinyue's body suddenly broke out and was extremely disgusting. However, it didn't mean that Su Jinyue had been cured before. Why couldn't she be cured now? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.